Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the internet. It is Wednesday night. It's 9 o'clock my time, and that means it's midweek Geek. And I am joined so far tonight by just Sean. I mean,
Hello.
you all know Sean, familiar face and an even more familiar voice. I don't know if anyone else is joining us. The link is in the usual spot, but we have a very specific topic tonight, which is going to be one of starting people out in gaming. What systems, what sets, what should our approach be? Any sort of tips in terms of methods, and just that general sort of thing. Because one thing I've really enjoyed about having this channel and the Discord is that there are currently 3 people on there now playing regularly or semi-regularly or interested in playing more who had never played a role-playing game before. There's one who certainly was interested in gaming for a while and had watched a lot of my videos, and it wasn't till pretty much after his first session that admitted to other players that he'd never played before. No one could believe it. And then we've had one guy completely stumble upon me randomly on a Friday night and get into playing, and he's played a number of games now, and that was purely through listening to me spout Fighting Fantasy. And now one of the guys I met through my Sunday job joined us last weekend, and that was his first time. And this to me warms my cockles. Warms my cockles. That's a phrase I used last week to the confusion of some people.
You know you're going to get demonetized using words like cockles in the beginning.
You let Bear in to beat me to it. I was about to say demonetized.
Aha! Rare that I win this contest, but today I have.
So myself and Sean are here to entice the newcomers, and Bear is here to scare them off. Is that right?
Wow! Just wow!
It's relentless, isn't it, Bear?
It doesn't stop. You know, like there's this. It's a good thing that I don't care what anybody else says, because otherwise I'd start taking this shit personally.
I learned that very quickly, so I'm just making the most of it.
Fair enough. That's very fair. That's very fair.
We've had a busy pre-stream chat tonight. Nerdy Ogre's lurking in chat. So is Midu, Halakar, General Nut, Richard the Dungeon Crawler. We've got Lee Baker. We've got R.W. Boship, Gene from Inksplat Records, and from the Hilt. R.W., were your ears burning? Because I did refer to you in my little intro, because you, of course, were the individual who had watched a number of my videos, clearly watched quite a lot of gaming stuff, and had more than a passing interest for a while. But your first ever game was that game of Call of Cthulhu, I believe, on Discord, which was great, and people couldn't believe it was your first game. Hello, a nerd's nerd. How you doing? So, right, let's just quickly talk. Here we go. Gene's back in on his right account. Okay. So
that's funny.
You're not a total noob now, are you, RW? You've played some games and you've done a good job of it, and that's what matters. I mean, you did do your groundwork before joining. That has to be said, but there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, I do recommend that sort of approach. So any gaming this last week or so, chaps?
Well, I gamed with you on the Saturday, your OSC game, which was fun. We actually got some treasures for a change. Always nice.
You're slipping, John.
He was in the game. He wasn't running it.
Oh, that's why. Okay.
Yeah. And
my druid's gained a level.
He's finally level 2.
He's level 2 and has 5 hit points.
How many sessions did it take you?
With psilocybin?
Yes.
About 6 or 7.
Psilocybin?
He's a druid, yes. Psilocybin.
Oh, Jesus.
We don't judge each other's names.
I judge. Puns are the lowest form of human wit. I judge harsh on them. Well done, sir.
What's wrong with calling a druid psilocybin? I thought it was very apt.
Clearly.
And
Is he a fun guy?
No, he's a pain in the backside.
And yes, convenient that he's here, but we played in Bear's Star Trek game last night.
Yes, he did.
So that's been my gaming for the week. My own games are on hiatus. I had planned to have them up and running yet, but swirling life events has not put me in the right mindset. So I'll get back to my own games when I'm ready, when I'm good and demo ready.
In fact, I have Psilocybin's character sheet here, and I will count up every time I've crossed out my experience is a session, basically, isn't it? So there's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, there's 5. Yep, 6 sessions. There we go. That's mainly because we got about 700 from that last session, didn't we? 650 odd from that last session. He was on 13.99 until that last load of XP. We have a Kabuki Kid and we have a Manfred. Hello. Bear, any games in addition to the one?
Well, Friday night we ran the first session of the new Star Trek game, Paradise Station, and that went really, really well with the new players, and it was really fun. And then last night we did Sojourner, episode 2, session number 5. And that was really fun. And then today with my former Monday VSD group, we're going to be starting up in a couple of weeks another Star Trek game of all things, this one called Star Trek Andromeda. So basically, since you have all pigeonholed me as the Star Trek guy, I've just decided to lean whole hog into it. And my Pathfinder Beginner Box game is on hold for the holidays because one of the players bounced out of town to see family. So we'll be picking that up in the new year.
So you were serious about that Andromeda thing? You weren't just kidding around?
Very serious. Okay. Basically, you can blame Brian, gaming with ADHD.
I do. We'll blame Brian for everything.
Yeah, because he basically was like, well, if Sojourner is TNG and Paradise Station is DS9, obviously the next one will have to be Voyager. And I'm like, fuck off. I'm not doing Voyager. I despise Voyager. Blah, blah. And then my brain started going, how would you do Voyager well? And then when my brain does that and gets an idea, well, now we got to see what we're going to do with that.
And be prepared to hate me because, once you've got that going, you got to do an Enterprise.
No, see, that's the beauty of it all. There are literally no more series I would ever want to emulate because every other series either goes back in time or ahead in future, right? So none of interest to me. Yeah, I agree. Voyager is shit, but Andromeda won't be.
Hello, Jeb. Hello, all ones. I've just put your comments.
Sorry, I got to do this real fast just because for me it was the stroke of genius that hit me for the campaign. I'm sorry. I know you want to talk to Sax. I want to talk to Sax. I love Sax. Sax is awesome, man. But really quickly, what I wrote was the following as the teaser for it. In 2375, the USS Andromeda engaged in battle with the Jem'Hadar and was lost with all hands. This is her story. And that's the hook for this campaign when it plays out. And people will be like, what? What are you talking about? It should be fun. Now I'm done.
And you've killed the microphone.
And I blame all of you because you guys all pigeonholed me.
We also have had Jeb joining us in chat, all ones who is on the Simul stream, because Mage is Simul streaming this stream tonight. And Iman, were your ears burning? Because you, of course, are one of the new players who has come into the hobby as a result of a random Friday night encounter with an old guy on the internet. I could have phrased that better, couldn't I?
You could absolutely.
You could have.
Hello, Saxius. How you doing?
I'm all right, thank you. Yourself?
I'm fine. Any games recently?
Yeah, I had my Saturday second edition. One of the players couldn't make it, which is fine. I prepare for these things. So it was a focus on the fighter. They are in the Empire of Necromancers, and the fighter has a random encounter where he ran into rebels who were showing up at the capital to free slaves, family members from the Empire. And the player decided that he was going to use his armor of command and use his magically enhanced 18 charisma to dig himself a hole because he neglected to read the handouts that I provided at the beginning of the entire campaign, which very clearly outlines how the Empire does not like non-humans. So he decided to start basically playing around with that, and playing around with his 18 charisma. And the other player that was there muted himself because he was seeing how bad it was going. And at the end of the session, the player asked me out of character, and as everything had ended, like how bad it was, and I went, well, I redirected him to the document I had handed out, waited for him to catch up, and then he more or less went, oh dear, oh shit, yeah. So he has invoked the name of a prominent noble family that one of the players is related to, and has tried to use that for leverage in his attempt of solving with a random encounter. It's not gone well, and we will see this coming Saturday how that goes down, and it will be down for the players and how they get out of that.
Cool. Well, I've had a few games, and some of them were influenced by my car woes over the weekend. Yes, car woes. But I had a game finished tonight. It's not really an RPG. But are you familiar with the Mafia werewolf type games?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've just finished playing one on a message board, based on the House of the Dragons, the prequel to what's it called?
Game of Thrones. Yep.
Game of Thrones, that's right. And I was the boy Luke. I didn't put in a single bad vote. I used my power correctly against baddies throughout the entire game, but my actual impact on the game was utterly minimal because it really made no difference. We won the game in 4 days. The good guys managed to kill all 5 of the bad guys in 4 days, and it's the most perfect good guy performance I've ever seen. Our town vigilante took out their best 2 players on nights 2 and 3, and it was just like, wow. That was great. It was great fun anyway. It was really, really good fun. And my dragon doesn't get bitten in half at the end in that one because that bad guy got killed at the end. Anyway, games, yes. Played the part of Silo Sybin, my druid, in our OSE game on Saturday afternoon. And I've gained a level. I'm level 2 druid with 5 hit points. I'm so tough. But hey-ho. But we played MERP on Saturday night, and for the second session in a row, the party made hardly any skill rolls, no combat, nothing like that at all. It was all plotting and planning and scheming and trying to work out what they're doing and what's going on, and it was a great session. It was really, really good. Really, really, really good. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And it almost never happened because I finished at work, and so in the afternoon I was at work, but playing in Gingerbeard's game because I've got a little microphone set up on my work computer. I closed up the shop, got in my car, went to reverse out of the car park. There was a loud crunching and a clunking sound, and my car just stopped, blocking the car park gates, unable to go forwards, unable to go backwards. And I was stood there in the freezing cold for 2.5 hours. Thus, we started the MERP game an hour and a half late. But everyone still came along. Everyone still enjoyed it. And it was well worth doing. Well worth doing. And Halakar, am I planning on getting Alone Against the Static? I've got Alone Against the Static, and I've started playing it. And I would have played it more if I hadn't have spent all of Monday trying to organise a mechanic for my car and all of Tuesday working on my channel. So I'm about 20 minutes into it. I have...
And all of Wednesday crying.
And all of Wednesday I've been at work again.
Yeah, crying.
And crying.
Right, yeah. But my views on it are mixed so far. There's a certain aspect to it. I'm hoping it doesn't play out like I think it's going to play out. But we shall see. The idea is good. So, anyway, there we go. That was my gaming. Oh no, don't worry, Halakar. Don't worry. I've actually spent a little too much over the last few weeks, with the car and ordering things online and Black Friday and all that sort of stuff. But I bought Alone Against Static on its day of release with a view to doing a video on it this week, but didn't. I was going to play through it Monday, but no, didn't really get through it enough. Didn't work. Ho hum. Okay. Anyhow, let's get on to the topic. Newcomers to gaming. Right. Now,
I didn't
don't know
realize
how many...
this was a thing we were doing. Thanks, Sax. I just noticed you could have sent me a memo or something. Here we go. Just holding our passports up to our faces. That's all we're doing. I'm just making fun of Sax.
Well, while John was doing that, I was putting in my details for a flight I'm having in about 2 weeks' time.
Where you heading?
Home.
I thought you were, oh no, that's right. UK is no longer in the EU. Never mind. My apologies.
That's right. Yeah.
Have a fun trip.
Will do. It's easy for me to go home. Not so much for my wife.
Fair enough.
Yeah. It's also fun for me to go the other way back, because then I'm the one who has to go through all the border security and, why are you here? What are you doing? And my answer is always the same. I'm here to pay taxes. I've got a mortgage. I contribute to your economy.
Yeah, border guards are renowned, and customs people are renowned for their amazing senses of humor. It's true. They're the most jovial people you'll ever meet.
So many times. I mean, I deal with customs on a regular basis. I know they've got a fantastic sense of humor.
And understanding. Always want to get the benefit of the doubt. They're so great.
Oh, yeah. And they'll always ask you the right questions of like, oh, are you sure we filled out this document right?
Yeah. And gentle
over
when
into
they
the
search
United States through Detroit, and I had borrowed my sister's car for the crossing, and then the border guard just suddenly got on all about the car. It's like, why doesn't your sister need her car for the weekend? It's awfully nice of her to loan you the car. Like, are you going to get back to her on time? Like, why wouldn't she need a car? It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you're going to Denmark for Christmas.
Ooh, that sounds fun.
So it's going to be large axes, bacon, and Lego.
I've already sent the meme in the chat about gonna go there, go on the longboats, go and raid Sweden, come back with all the goodies, and proceed to celebrate Christmas.
Nothing wrong with that. Okay, right. Newcomers to the hobby. Okay, I've already explained that through my channel, I'm very happy to have got 3 new people to the hobby playing at least on a semi-regular basis, and my face-to-face group were relative newcomers to gaming when they were unfortunate enough to get teamed up with me by the local game store owner and in a game, but we've been gaming ever since. So, but with them, I like the fact that I've almost been able to mold them a little bit. That might sound a bit devious, but I think I've done an all right job with them. They enjoy the hobby. They come back for more. But how many newcomers have you guys played with over the last few years? Start with Sean. I mean, I know you have, Sean. You've talked about it.
I've brought a lot of people into the game. What I tend to do is have, when somebody can't make a regular game, I'll have a guest spot, and if somebody's expressed interest, I say, well, we got an opening, come sit in. And so that way they can get a feel for the game as it's going on. I don't have to cater it to a newcomer. But if somebody's new, depending on the game I'm playing, I tend to prefer to get people in through my OSE game, which is a much simpler system. But even before I started running OSE, I'd bring people in on AD&D, and it'd be a simple matter of, don't worry about the rules. That's the first thing I say. Don't worry about the rules. Don't worry about the mechanics. Think of it as an acting role. Think of it as, you are this person, you are this character. Don't worry about conflicting with the other players. Just play the scenario, and then coach them through that. The rules will, they'll come. We'll coach you through on the day.
Because some of the guys who play the games on your channel were new.
Mm-hmm.
They'd come through acting, hadn't they? So they got a different confidence level to your regular nerd who will be hiding in the corner of a gaming shop, wondering who they speak to about this mystical game that they've heard about.
In the case of my OSE game that I recap, that was a mix of experience levels. We had one player who was brand new, had never played any role playing before. It was his first time. And then we had two players who were experienced. They've been playing for decades. And then we had a couple of dabblers. So there was a mix. And then that's a great example of my guest player philosophy, because that game is West Marches. That way, that game is all about, the rotation of characters and players. Whereas my regular game, my AD&D game, is a consistent group. So there are fewer spots. There's usually one spot available that I can bring somebody in to guest.
Okay. And Bear?
Over the years, a lot. Recently, not so much. But before COVID, I had a 5e game with coworkers who wanted to learn and play D&D. And I brought in my one friend, April, as the ringer. She was the experienced player that would come in. But I brought her in because I knew she wasn't so much about mechanics as she was about role-playing. So she'd help encourage them to role-play more so. Surprisingly, all the girls took to it like fish to water. And of the three boys, one took to it really well, and the other two they just wanted to play Elder Scrolls. They were like, oh, we love Critical Role. We watch Critical Role. We want to play D&D. And then when they actually played it, they're like, this is nothing like what we thought it would be. I'm like, yeah, there you go. Huh? Critical Role is a bad thing, and now you know why. And it was fun times. But sadly, that game ended. COVID came, and we couldn't get together anymore. And then we've all sort of drifted apart.
Okay. And Saxius?
Well, how many people have brought into the hobby?
In recent years.
So within the last 5?
Well, if you want to call 5 recent, yeah, I'd call 5 recent, yeah. I'd call 10 recent. In fact, 20's recent.
Well, if you go by 10, I was the president of the D&D Society, where I doubled our numbers. We went from about 40 up to about 80 members, active members, that was. We went from 4 DMs to 15 DMs. We had probably the golden age when I did that at university. Outside of that, I can't really say I haven't really kept overly tabs on it. I have a long list of people who say that their standards for what constitutes good games has been raised because of what I hold myself to. So I'd say if we go within the last 10, I'll probably say I've introduced 30, 40 people to the hobby by being out there. Within the last 5, I'll probably say it's dropped quite dramatically to about 10 people I've sort of brought into the hobby that I believe are still active, just with their own things. And as
here
of
was
late,
me being proud. Here was me being proud of 3 within the last year or so.
Yeah, but I have not stopped gaming since I was 9. I'm 31 right now. I have taken this hobby of mine to the extreme. I am to the point of where I'm advocating for people to to become a part of it. I've recently just handed over one of my players' handbooks to one of my colleagues, like day before yesterday, because she's getting interested into what D&D is. So I'm giving her that book. If she likes what she sees, then I'll see if there's anything that I arrange online that I can have it included in. Because the real life games are, well, they're very tough to arrange, especially since she lives in one city, I live in another, and if I can't find the time to, well, drive an hour, which at least for us here in Europe, that's a big distance to go. Then that's difficult to do in real life. But yeah, as of late, like, one person I've introduced to it. Trying to think. I've been able to like sniff out a lot of the nerds in my company. So like I've identified them. They've been introduced to me, whether they wanted to or not, and well, here I am. There they are. I talk to them around the regular. That's my quick 2 cents of that. Like, but then, how is this a surprise though? Like, you've seen my PowerPoint presentation.
Oh yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Like, that's what I've been doing for the majority of my time.
But you've got such a reputation for being a vicious bastard.
He has a
I am.
PowerPoint presentation and
PowerPoint presentation,
a spreadsheet,
Excels.
a spreadsheet for new
Exactly.
players. You will study this before you get to my game.
I mean, hell, like I even did like an overview handouts on like Google Docs and PDFs that I would give out to the players. Like, here's what you know about the world. Now read this. And most players going like, I don't need that. I'll be told about it. Oh, wait, I am now in an empire that hates me because I'm a dwarf. I was like, did you read the document? No. Well, why are you surprised that you're now being asked where your papers are and which land you belong to? You serf, you belong to a person. You don't deserve any of these things. I was like, but listen, I told you, me the DM, I told you. So yeah, I'll be vicious, but at the very same time, I want people to join this hobby because it's awesome.
Yeah,
And
that's true. That's true.
Like a drug dealer, I will always give the first tries free. Next, hey, how am I in the wrong? You've got 2 people right here who is just going like, yes, I understand what this means. I
Yeah, of
agree
course.
to this distribution of
At the
of
same time,
social
I try to
narcotics.
suss out people I think would be interested.
Yeah.
Because we've got our own, the own niche that we want.
Yeah, I know a lot of friends of mine that I can game with, like board games and stuff. They would never get into D&D. And it's like, all right, you're welcome at the table if you want to try, but I'm not going to push it.
One example for me is my wife. I board game with my wife. She has no interest whatsoever in role playing. None whatsoever.
That's all right.
I'm trying to get my brain around the fact that Sax is 31. It's not happening.
All right. Well, how old do you need me to be?
Well, at this point, eternal.
Just never age.
Just never
Continuously
age.
apply, skin lotion.
Just
Stay.
be Sax forever.
Well, it's true of gingers, isn't it? Like Asian people, you don't age at all until you reach a certain point and then snap overnight.
Apparently, I've hit the point.
Apparently. I've seen pictures of you young, so yeah.
Yeah. Apparently, I've hit the point.
I just need to be kept on fed souls, and so far there's steady supply around.
Yeah,
me.
you know what though, man? Like, you only get so many freckles, and then eventually there's no more room for the souls you steal.
I'll find the spots.
As someone who's further down the road, Ginger Boy, let me tell you, you won't.
I will try.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree with Sax 100%. If you don't read the campaign background, I don't care if it's 1 page or it's 20 pages. If you don't read it, don't come and bitch to me when things don't make sense to you as a player, especially if you're a newbie. But I notice newbies actually read stuff.
Oh, God.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Newbies take the time. They go, oh, this is important. I should read it. It's the vets who are like, I don't need you. I know how D&D works. And then they show up and they make characters that make no sense, So what are you going to do?
Through this book, You can't see it.
Rick
It's Van
Toppin's
Richten's.
Companion.
Van Richten's, yeah.
Van Richten's Monsters Compendium. Specifically, I bought the entries on vampires on its own separate thing. I gave that out to my D&D players. Lo and behold, exactly as Bear said, the newbies were the one who went, let's find some time to read this.
Yeah.
And one of the players showed up with a 6-page notes of just her writing things down from what I gave to her, and came back and just basically went, right, we should be very scared of Strahd. We should be very scared of him. And everyone's just like, why? It's like, she sat there, like, there's no one read what Oscar gave us. It's like, why? It's like, we can't kill him with just stakes and decapitation. I was like, wait, what? Yes. I was like, Oscar has literally given us the answers. She was just sitting there, like, not, like having to basically bring the knowledge of the Van Richten guide to the players who just decided like they didn't want to read, like they wanted to be spoon-fed this, and it gave a fantastic dynamic of a new player basically going, here is this, the DM has given it to us, I've read it, you should have read it, but since you haven't read it, I will have to condense my fears down to this, and because I'm afraid, you should be afraid. It worked beautifully. Because the players were just wide-eyed at this one player. And then they all slowly turned to me. He's like, Oscar, is this true? I'm like, well, you're going to have to read the documents. So far, you've only got one person who has read it. It's great.
No.
It's great. Then again, I've also got one of my veteran players who takes very meticulous notes. Like he has pinpointed on like 2 major events in my 2nd edition game. And that has spanned over like 3 years at this point. He's pinpointed very vague references that I've put in to very critical moments, which the major one being the discovery of the Yonti. He managed to basically discover that there was a knife that they collected in like session 6 with a strange symbol that was kind of what I was describing. Got it, scrying, located the Yonti. And recently, he also made a comment about, the ranger that we've taken with us to the Empire. He was doing carvings. Why has he thrown all of the stuff that he carved into the fire? He's picking up on these things, and as he's also quickly learning, is that the ranger is basically sort of going, I've lost a lot of my good friends, and I'm having to do a clean slate now, which means everything, all attachments are gone, and he's applying. He's going into this mission like very, very tunnel visioned, which the players now also have to deal with.
But it's a good feeling. When I used to run a Marvel campaign back in the 90s, we would have I made a timeline of the entire history of like the superhero existence from the 30s up to the modern age, and just a bullet point timeline, but it was there for them. And then I would have what were called karma quizzes, because karma is the currency you get, and they would answer questions and they'd get extra karma for the session. But nothing was better than when they would just drop a name of someone and one of the players would go, oh, wait, I know that name. And then they'd be like, oh, how do I know it? And it makes you feel good as a GM at that point in time, because what you've created is now being engaged with outside of your own fucking head.
Absolutely. But that's bringing it back onto the topic about the beginners, because the beginners want to, like, most of them, when it is beginners, they come in with an interest to be engaged. They come in with a preconceived notion of like what they want from it. Very few come in, sit down and go, entertain me.
Yeah, no, that's true.
Those who do that, like they, for me at least, I make it quite clear, like, you put in as much effort, like the effort you put in, I will return to you. So if you put in minimal effort, you will get minimal effort. And again, I make that clear from the get-go. The players know they get the efforts that they put into it, and then that's sort of the build-up. The more you engage with it, the more they build up with it. And most players will come in thinking, oh, this sounds really neat. So if I put in a lot of effort, it will return a lot. Which, at least what I would like to think, it happens. And that's what I do.
I just want to bring up what Jay said. I fully agree with this. Love new players. Always have fresh ideas and views.
Yep.
Absolutely. Because when a new player joins a game, they often don't know anything about the rules of the game. And I find players seem to go through cycles. They start off very, very creative, full of wonderful ideas and interesting approaches. And then they start to understand the rules. And then they start to think, well, how can we use the rules to best effect? But then they drift back when they sort of, it clicks and they realize, hang on, that's not usually the most interesting way of playing. And I find then that a lot of the very experienced players start realizing the rules are there to assist when necessary, but not define what you can do.
Mhm.
And that's what I'm finding with our OSE games. It's very much fall back on the rules when needed, but as a group, we're being quite creative and silly.
Mhm.
But we're either very experienced old school players, or a couple of new guys who haven't got preconceived ideas.
Well, it's really fun. Like in the 5e game with the Nooblers, we eventually added some extra old players in when the other two guys dropped out. And it was really hilarious about 3 sessions in when one of the Nooblers does something rules appropriate to maximize the situation. One of the vets is like, we can do that? And it's like, and she just looked at him and went, have you read the rule book? And he's like, well, yeah. And it's like, no, you didn't. You skimmed it, you liar. You know? So it's fun.
And
Nooblers can be a lot of fun.
I know RW had this sort of, I mean, this is something we've touched on before. This, it's almost like the imposter syndrome. I shouldn't be here. I don't know what I'm doing. I shouldn't be doing this. I'm not right for doing this. But we love new players. You don't clog up the wheels.
No.
You won't clog up the wheels to a DM who is smooth with the rules. The DM will tell you when to roll.
I mean,
the DM will adjudicate.
It certainly can happen, but yeah,
it can. It depends on the game you're playing, which is something I do want to come to.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're playing a suitably light game in terms of rules, or flexible game in terms of rules, then you won't clog anything up. In fact, you'll be a breath of fresh air.
That can happen. That absolutely. And the other thing, even complex rules, so long as everybody else at the table has a grasp, but the new player doesn't have to worry because they will be helped through by other players or the DM.
Absolutely.
And when I've been doing this for 40 years, but you know, I'll play in new games. You know, I'm in Bear's Star Trek games, brand new to me. I'm just like, all right, I'll follow Bear's lead. He'll tell me what I need to roll. I'll just think about doing my actions.
Absolutely.
We've made so many mistakes. It's wondrous.
It's like being a teenager again.
It's so much fun. It is. It's really fun.
Kabuki sums it up nicely here. The nuts and bolts of the rules come later, or are mostly carried by the DM.
By the DM, yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
Well, that's at least. I always tell, especially new players, don't read the books of naturally, but tell me what you want to do because it's my job to translate your actions into mechanics. Don't let the rules be a limit for you, and we'll take it from there.
And don't take an absurd character. I have seen brand new players, they try to be overcomplicated. I like, no, start simple. When I was running second ed, when I used the players options where there's a lot of options, I would actually have people. It's like, you are a neutral human fighter for your first character. After that, go nuts. But while you're learning the game, you are a neutral human fighter. And then after a couple sessions, if you don't like the character, you can retire them and try something new. But while you're learning the basics, take a character that you can relate to. I don't want to.
Yes.
I don't want people asking to play Pixie Samurai Kensai's. You know.
Start simple. Start with something simple and something that you can easily associate with. Have you got a favorite character in a book? Then why not play something like that to begin with? Because you've got a reference point. There's more ways of approaching it. So, a favorite system for starting a new player with, and there can be multiples, and we can talk about other systems as well that can be used. But a personal favorite. I know what you're going to say, Sean.
Well, now I would say old school essentials. If I'm starting a brand new player, because I have an OSE game going, but up to about 2 years ago, I would just bring them into my AD&D game and tell them just play the character. Don't worry about the rules. Do not worry about the rules. They're not futs. We'll help you through it.
I did that with one of the new guys in my old AD&D game. In fact, I did it with the whole group had only pretty much played 5th edition, and I just thrust AD&D on them and said, "Don't worry, I'll handle it." And then another guy joined the group after about a year or so. He'd not played anything, and they just turned around to him and says, "Don't worry about the rules. John will sort it," which is nice because my approach had worked. But we do have we have a generous gift from All Ones. Is this to Sean?
I believe it is.
It is. Yes. Thank you, All Ones.
He loves new players who kind of know what they're doing, but if they don't know anything, I'm not too much into hand-holding and teaching role-playing.
Okay. But yeah, I would agree. OSE would, of course, that's if they're a fan of fantasy games. If they've heard of D&D and things like that, then I think OSE is a great place to start them. I know RW's first game was Call of Cthulhu, but that's because he expressed an interest in joining that Call of Cthulhu game. And he certainly seems to lean that way in terms of gaming. I know he's commented before saying that nothing's really grabbed him about the AD&D style of gaming yet, but seems keen to play a fair bit more Call of Cthulhu. So that's good.
Well, I'd probably have a different system. I mean, you guys know I'm married to the systems I play, so they're the ones I'm going to push. Yeah. But I have no doubt there are easier systems, probably better for new players. I just, I'm playing the games I want to play. So if you're coming to my table and you're new, well, OSE is probably
OSE is so straightforward. And
or BECME or the adjacent ones. BECME is a great one. That Kabuki Kid mentioned up thread the first player's BECME book is a great introduction, even though it's maybe aimed at younger people, but it will still show you the core that you need to know about playing the game. And you'll be traumatized by the death of Alina, and that's important. That's important for a growing RPGer.
Bear.
Yeah?
What system would you start new players on? Any particular one that you think's really suitable?
Marvel Superheroes, Phase Rip. You can teach anyone to play that game in 10 minutes. And it doesn't have to, it's superheroes. Everyone gets superheroes. Everyone understands what a superhero is. Everyone knows the tropes. Everyone knows the basics. You can have a lot of fun with that. A lot of fun. You can get people up and playing fast. I'm sorry, my answer's not as long-winded as the D&D answers. I apologize. But therefore, we're going to pick which version of D&D we're going to introduce.
Something I haven't mentioned to you. I mean, you've asked me a few weeks back about my MERP collection and everything. Uh-huh. If you're coming to Clericon next year, I think it'd be a good idea for me to bring it with me to Clericon.
I want to see it. Yeah, I want to see it.
I haven't been up in my attic for about a month. It's up there because it's really cold. But when the weather is a little bit better, I'll go up there and I'll take some pictures.
That'd be awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. Look, it boils down to this. It's a very basic game. It uses a color chart. It's a D percentile. It's not very intricate. It's not very, it's got depth, but you have to really, the judge, as it's called in that game, has to really know the system well to make it sing. But once you start making it sing, it's awesome. But if you just get down to the core basics of it, no house rules. Here's your rank. Here's your dice. Here's the chart. Roll.
Yes, it is. It is simple. It is simple. The whole shifting along the charts, it's dead easy. And the descriptions, they work.
Yep.
How strong am I? I am amazing. I'm stronger than you because you're only excellent.
Oh no, it gets to the point where people have played the game long enough. You'll say that was a very remarkable movie I just watched, and you're like, "Oh, I think it was incredible." Because it's just a stupid lexicon you pick up from it. But it's simple. It's a simple game that hides complexity very, very well. And once you start playing it, you're going to get sucked into this whole thing where you're going to just suddenly realize that it's way more in depth than you think. Oh, crafting gamer, that's awesome, man.
Thank you, Crafting Gamer. If you've just got a membership, it doesn't tell me who's got memberships because I switched off the bot that told me because it was annoying. If you've just got a membership, then make sure you thank Crafting Gamer. I see from the hilt has already, yeah, you've turned into the Hulk, but anybody who's just turned green, Crafting Gamer is the one who caused that. Thank you, Crafting Gamer.
I think my membership ran out, but that's okay. I'm tightening the belt on memberships this week.
We all have to from time to time.
Mm-hmm.
Indeed. Yes. I was just saving for the turbo on my car when my clutch goes. My slave cylinder goes. So, turbo's going to have to wait an extra month. Because that's how it is. That's how it is. Favorite system to begin people with, Saxius?
What's popular and what do they want to learn? Because for me, it's not down to what I want. If they're new, if it's a group of new people, that's their decision. Let them choose what they want the introduction to be. If it's going to be 5th edition, I will play them 5th edition. I'll get them immersed. If it is Call of Cthulhu, I will scare the living hell out of them. Whatever it is. End of the day, though, like, if the players are going to be coming, especially if they're new, if they're coming in and they're saying, I want to try this, like, well, great. What do you want to go for? I want to go for D&D. All right, well, let's go for the one that's popular. Here's the one that's popular. Do you like what you see here? Oh, yes. Well, then we'll go for that. Because I want them in.
Cheers, Ben.
And then that's it.
Yeah, I mean, you have got a good point there in that. I had meant to click on this one, but it looks like Halakar is plans to start.
Stop paying attention to me. It's Saxus's time. Come on now.
But no, I think Saxius has got a good point in that the current thing is not a bad way of getting people started, and I do dump on 5th edition. But I do think at low levels, it is an adequately simple edition to get people going because it's what they will have heard about. It's what is current. It's what they can look up on YouTube and find all sorts of people shouting and screaming about. And there's a lot out there for them to pick it up and get the ideas very quickly. But I think 5th edition very quickly becomes a game that is too cumbersome for beginners. Because
eventually, but it's still, as you say, it's a good starting point because it is accessible.
It is accessible. If the players, again, we've all agreed to this, especially new players, they're willing to put in the effort, then most of them are going to start looking at things building up. And I'm going to use my 5th edition game we've been playing for coming up to our 2nd year. Yes, we are up at around level 12 and 13 now. They've got powers and abilities that are quite out there, and it's a bit bonkers at times, but the players are absolutely loving it because they've bought into it. They've put in the effort into their characters, and they show up to every session thinking, yes, we're gonna do things now. They're invested. They've learned the rules that they need to that they need to memorize. I've told them, these are your characters now. I don't need to memorize your character sheets anymore. You are old enough to deal with this. So I'm now going to run things my side. And I will run it how I do things. It was how I informed them about Curse of Strahd. They would be given glove handling, but at a very clear stages, things are going to escalate, and it's going to come to the big bad of fighting Strahd, and I will have no safety nets for them at that point. They understood that. They felt the difference, and they came out of that campaign thinking, wow, we as players have really improved, and they were super happy with seeing how well they work together now that I've thrown them into Red Hand of Doom, and they're seeing what it's like being powerful and being a cohesive group of adventurers.
When did you start running Red Hand?
Sorry?
When did you start Red Hand?
So I started that around March this year.
So they're good and into it by this point, right?
We have just finished the chapter 3, which is
Wow.
Rest. Yeah. Sorry, we've just begun chapter 3, where
That's a
gonna be
rough
meeting-
adventure for newbies, though.
Well, they've carried over their characters from Curse of Strahd, so they
Okay.
started out really high level,
Okay.
and I've informed them again, like, you're high level, that's fine, but again, you're going to be given some fun here, and there has been some seriously close encounters. I almost one-shotted one of the players by doing 58 points of damage with a dragon attack.
No, that'll do it.
Yeah, I was trying to scrape in 2 more points of damage to permakill them.
Well, there you go.
All these new members. Thank you, Mac. Thank you, Curtis. Thank you very much indeed.
So,
But I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, yes, it's a very, very valid point to start people on what's a new thing. But equally, yes, you've got to scope out what they like. The Beck Me Basic set was where I started, and to this day, I still think it is one of the best places to start role playing, because that starter adventure is absolutely fabulous. But I do think, in terms of rule structure and the way it's laid out, OSE has superseded it in terms of being a simple game to explain and a simple book to read.
Yeah, OSC's just missing a basic introductory adventure. That's
It
the
is,
one
yes.
chink in the armor for me on OSC.
Yeah,
Yes.
they just presented the rules. They weren't teaching how to play. There's even a line in one of the opening pages that says, "You want to learn to play? Go to YouTube."
Yeah, no, but I'm still just saying it wouldn't kill them to have an introductory adventure, right? Because
Nope, I
it
don't
would
disagree at
be
all.
very helpful, you know?
One of those nice little hardbacks, those gorgeously produced hardbacks.
Yeah, sure, why
Yes.
not? But I don't
And
think it's his style. You know, I mean, he's more nuts and bolts. I mean, yeah, Dolmenwood's interesting and all that, but he's more nuts and bolts in the presentation with OSC. So I don't think it would work for him. I don't know, maybe. I don't know.
Him as a writer, no, but he has other people who produce the stuff. Like all those modules are different people, so somebody could easily do it.
But Kabuki Kid hit it right on the nose. OSC needs a Bargle.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
Definitely. Just to make players, just to introduce them and give them that first arch nemesis and that character they get to hate as much as everyone hated Bargle, you know?
he appears in all of my games in some form. Everybody gets a chance to kill Bargle.
who's
So-
Bargle?
He was,
See, now your age is showing.
Yep. So way back in Beckme, Sax, there was a little adventure you had to go through where your friend Alina the cleric gets killed
Oh,
by
that-
a wizard
no.
named Bargle. And as a result, there's even an adventure called Kill Bargle. There's a board game called Kill Bargle. There was a guild or something at Gen Con was the Kill Bargle crowd. I mean, you know, this affected an entire generation of players, they say.
Okay. I am too jaded these days to
have
see
you
how that works.
have you never encountered Elena? You've never.
No.
Oh, so you're going to fall in love with her if you have a heart.
No.
So
Well,
that's
there you
questionable
go.
for you.
So, sorry, but who are we talking to here? Me as a player would use Charm Person to fiddle in all these people with me and send them down the corridors to see where the traps were, because I couldn't be bothered to roll a thief.
Not if you're a first level fighter, you won't. Which you were
I
in that
was
adventure.
playing a wizards and Charm
But this
Person.
is the introductory adventure where you're a first level fighter and you meet a cleric named Alina, and you fight a wizard named Bargle. And there's
Okay,
a rush
sure.
monster.
Download the Beckme Red Box the player's book, just to have a read, and then you'll know what we're talking about.
I'll give it a read later, but like my point is, like, this is what I was like as a player. I was heartless then. Like
Yes, we get it. You're a sour pill. You're a pickled herring. We get it.
I'm a fantastic co-player. I just burn things down so you can escape.
Sure you do.
Yes.
I'm just getting an image of Elena so that.
No, I have Googled it. I've quickly caught up.
Yeah, but
You
Just so we're
Keep it
clear,
on the screen,
Elena
Mike.
is not the picture in the cleric class page. That's not Elena.
that's another hot cleric.
It's amazing that character shows up in all my campaigns. The hot Mongol cleric lady, for sure. 100%,
Impeccable
man.
taste. But we're not going to
Mhm.
deny the beauty of Alina.
I regret asking this question.
No, you don't. You love it.
Come on, bring it up,
You feel
John. Bring it up.
You feel like
We're
you've
talking about
grown
Alina.
as a human, sir.
These slavering fans are waiting.
The slavering. Okay. But you can just address all one's generosity then while I'm doing this.
Yes, I like throwing them in the deep end, into the crunch of Shadowrun or whatever. Yeah, whatever game you're running. That I think that's key. I mean, because if it's not a game you're familiar with, then you're also the noob, and you're not exactly necessarily the guidepost or the mentor. Whenever I play a new game, I just like, you know what, I don't even. It's not that I don't bother to learn the rules, but I don't prioritize that. I will just try to play the role.
Now show the other picture, John. So
What, the one of Elena?
The end of Elena.
Oh, the end. You want to see the end of Elena? Well, this is when it happens. This is the magic missile that kills her.
There's a chat in the way. You can't see the magic missile very well, but yeah.
There we go. Look, there we go. That's Bargle pointing his magic missile at Elena. Poor Elena. Elena's about to get it. And let me find the
look at Sax. He's like, "Argh!"
Okay. I get I'm supposed to have feelings here. Yeah.
If Larry or Elmore women don't make your heart go pitter patter, your heart is dead.
What am I meant to feel here? Like, I don't
I
get it.
I love that she's got the chainmail bra over the chainmail.
Of course, absolutely. But Len's right. It's early 80s Elmore ladies. How can you not love early 80s Elmore ladies? And also say that 5 times fast. Early 80s Elmore ladies.
early 80s Elmore ladies.
If we say it one more time, she'll manifest like Beetlejuice.
Early 80s Elmore ladies.
No.
Early 80s Elmore ladies.
All right. Now you're just being a child in the car.
So,
Okay,
so to all one's statement there, yeah. So the game you are running that definitely helps, because then you can be the guide, and even he's saying, because he ran me through a Twilight 2000 game where he was still kind of on the rules, but you're still the guidepost, even if you're not, it's 100% of the rules. You are still running the game, so players should defer to you until everybody gets a little stronger with the system. Oh, Alina.
It's okay. She comes back later because she's resurrected by her uncle.
I don't know if that was canon.
Yeah, in Mistar it is.
Is it? Okay.
Yeah. Because her uncle's the arch cleric of Karamikos or something like that.
I guess they realized that they had they had traumatized too many people, so they had to bring her back.
All One's also contributed another $5 to you, Sean. And if you'd like to read this one out for him.
You should always start your new players with Palladium, as everything after that is downhill. I highly disagree with that, but
I disagree as well.
But I did enjoy Palladium as a kid. I mean, I had my fun with it.
I think Palladium's a fine game. Just benefits from poor layout, really. Or doesn't benefits, right? It suffers from poor layout. Well, here, John, continuing our torture of Sax. Give me a second. Because this is now my new favorite hobby. It's so good it should be fattening.
Let's rename the stream to the Torture Saxia stream.
I'm in.
I just don't understand. Like, I'm more confused. Like, why am I meant to feel things for these characters? Like,
play the beginning adventure in the Beckme World book. Elena's lovely. She heals your wounds, and
she's got the magic touch.
Yeah, she has.
She's got the touch. So I took that into Photoshop and gave it a color job to make it a little more interesting. But there you go. That's the other early 80s Elmore lady that will...
And I love how we blocked out Saxius, so we can't see.
I can't see Saxius' reaction at all on this one. He's like, get on the fucking topic.
Again, like, I understand that this is something that majority of you has played and enjoyed. I just don't relate because
because cultural touchstones are nerdy.
That's fine. You can be nerdy. You can enjoy this. You can have sentimental relations for this. That's fine.
And we damn well will. And when you turn 50, you will too. You'll be gone. Now I know what these guys will.
You'll be talking about Murali or whoever the thing is from your first D&D.
So, I think Mac has got a point here. Are we discussing what is the best system or the best game to start newbies on?
Yes.
Now I conflate the two together.
Yeah, what do you mean? What's the difference between system and game for you, Mac? What's your split on that?
Well, I mean, Palladium, for example, is many games that use the same system.
Sure.
I mean, I'm quite happy with the basic D&D system, using a variety of dice, small amounts of hit points, and keeping that basic. You roll your D20 to hit. It's not complicated. It's yes, keep GURPS away from newbies. Yeah, that's absolutely fine. That's absolutely fine. But I know there are various game systems that have been adopted for various games. For example, the D20 system got adopted, and the 5e system has been adapted and adopted in various ways. And then you've got Free League use for a variety of their games. Use the system. There's the GURPS Rollmaster, which is the absolute opposite of what you'd start anybody with. All these sort of things. But I think we're going to stick more with the actual game, and we have touched on them. And I want to come on to starter sets, because a great way to begin is with a good starter set. Now, I've written down 4 examples of good starter sets here, but I want you lot all to suggest them first.
Bear, you do a lot of starter sets. Like, you know a lot about them.
I was hoping I wasn't going to be first, but since I am, all other hands down, this is the best starter set ever produced. Hands down, 100%. It does not get better than this. This, literally, when you're presenting a starter set for a company, someone should hand you this and go, if it ain't this good, we're not publishing it, because this is amazing. This was a breath of fresh air. It is fantastic. I hate Pathfinder 1E, but I love 1E starter set because the beginner box is just so much good. So much good. But yeah, starter sets are okay.
It's Pathfinder simplified, isn't it? I believe.
Very much so. 5 levels, really good.
Okay. Sean? Do you not own?
Oh, I'm biased. I started on the red box, and I tend to echo what we said earlier. It's a great starter, but at the same time, I haven't exactly sampled a lot. That's why I pointed to Bears. Bears actually sampled quite a few, I think.
Yeah, I got a few on my shelves too.
Yeah, and
the red box starter set was missing a substantial starting adventure. You had your little choose your own adventure,
yeah,
and you had, and the DM's book had that castle section to partially filled in, and to fill in more, but obviously it didn't have B1 or B2 with it, so it was missing a substantial starter adventure.
It had
otherwise it was superb.
It had the one in the Dungeon Master's book where you had to fill it in, that you had.
Yeah, I mentioned that. Yeah.
That's not bad, because it is a teaching
yes
adventure. But the problem was you aren't quite versed enough to be able to create the rest, right? Like Keep on the Borderlands. I know you hate it, Bear, but it was a teaching module. It did show you how to play. Mm-hmm. So it had that aspect there. I know when I was 13 and learning D&D, I took that beginning module in the DM's booklet, and I didn't know what to do with it because I still needed more teaching, right? So I wasn't ready to make my own yet.
Yeah, Beckby Redbox teaches you how to be a player really well.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much how to be a DM.
Yeah.
I think the first 3 basic modules all had really good elements of starting people out. You had B1, where you had good room descriptions and the idea that you place the monsters and treasures in yourself. You had B2, which did give you quite a lot of nuts and bolts regarding how to run a game. You had all the tables in there, and you had a much more complete adventuring location. And you had B3, which had a choose your own adventure start for the first few rooms, but it followed up with not a particularly great adventure afterwards. It was a little bit formulaic. So I do think the basic set possibly missed a real complete starter adventure. you've got really good elements in B1, 2, and at the start of 3. And if they could have put all 3 of those elements combined, I think that would have been perfect. While Satchus is digging things out.
I can't contribute because I don't have starter sets.
Okay.
Like,
Well,
yeah.
I own. I mean, Bear, would you class the original yellow Marvel superheroes as a starter set?
No, it's a basic game, but yeah, so it's not like you're going to play that and then immediately go to the advanced rules. So no.
But it does come with a starter adventure, which is quite easy to
Yeah,
run.
absolutely, and
Day of the Octopus.
that's great. But so did the Champions box set, right? I have that. It has a bunch of 3 starter adventures in it. I mean, the thing is that a starter set should be something that gets you started. It opens the door, it runs you through something, you get to go, you get to have a good time, and then boom, you're done, right? And then move on to something else.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole thing, about teaching how to be a DM, that's necessary in a starter set. You need to be able to teach the guy that's going to run the game or the girl that's going to run the game how to do that thing. And I think BECME didn't do that in the red box as well as it did in the blue box. Expert, when you get to expert, now it starts teaching you how to DM really, really well.
Well, it added things to the world building aspect too.
Exactly.
So and,
and of course, you got Isle of Dread with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Exactly. But ultimately, at the end of the day, would Yellow Box Marvel be a starter set? No, because it was its own game and it existed for years before the advanced set came out, right?
Then I have 4
set.
Then I have 4 starter sets instead of 5. Unless you can call my
you call whatever you want, princess.
Unless you can call my Car Wars starter set. So that's not really a role playing game. But no, basic red box. I actually think the 5th edition starter set is very, very good because you've got the basic rules and you've got a very good teaching adventure to help you start in the Lost Mines of Phandelver.
Mm-hmm. Yep. No,
I think that they did the whole starting out thing very, very well with that. It was downhill after that.
I picked up the box just for that adventure.
Yeah.
It's worth having. I want to react to what Len said here. He says basic D&D is not a good introductory system for tweens or teens because characters are weak and tweens and teens typically want to be empowered. I don't disagree with that statement. They do, but it doesn't mean that's what they need. I found that a lot of people, once they get used to the power creep, they actually like the older systems where you are more vulnerable, but that doesn't inform whether or not it's a good teaching system.
Yeah, you sometimes have to flush that wanna be powerful phase out of their system a little bit, don't you? Get that out of the system, then take them back to the roots.
But you're still teaching the system, and it does teach the system well, whether or not it's at the power level they necessarily want.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I love about Lost Mine of Phandelver. You can just TPK in that first encounter.
Oh god, yeah.
And there's a harsh lesson for your players,
And if they don't TPK there, then there's the bugbear encounter soon afterwards, which could also do the same damage.
You know what I mean? Or the Cragmaw Caves or whatever it is, where you can just wipe them out with a flood. Bye.
And then they're level 2 or 3, and there's a chance they could anger a dragon.
Yeah.
So
I won't argue. I think most of Phandelver annoys me because it's such it's a weird, you got to get these things to do this thing type of feeling to it. Like it's very bobo, as we say in French, it's bobo. It's not very, deep, but it's a great teacher. It's a fantastic teacher.
Yes,
my 5e game is currently going through Phandelver. They're on hiatus right now, but we just finished the first part where they cleared the red brands out of the keep, and that's when we took a break. But up to that point, it's pretty linear. Like as you say, you've got to go here's the trigger to go here's the fetch quest, blah blah blah. But after that, you can play it sandbox. You can play the full.
Oh yeah, especially with the expanded stuff they've added since. You can just keep a whole campaign going, and now they've got the new expansion on Beneath Phandelver, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I mean that's a whole thing, right?
I haven't looked at it, but it's all there.
In terms of doing what a starter set needs to do, it did it very well. I think we're.
Agreed
with that.
Agreed. The only difference is, and this is the difference in why I much prefer the Pathfinder Beginner Box to the D&D Essentials, is the Pathfinder Beginner Box, which was roughly around the same time, by the way. It's excellent for new players, but it's not a starter set. It's a complete game.
Well, he
My
did say that
point.
afterwards. Yes, Leonard, you're about 5 minutes behind the conversation.
Yes. Anyway, what you got for your money in the Pathfinder Beginner Box was insane. The amount of teaching, the amount of material. I mean, for God's sake, there was a dry erase flip map. One was the introduction dungeon. The other side was blank to do your own stuff with. That's amazing resources for a starting GM, to have those kinds of tools available to you right out of the gate. And if you go back and read all the reviews from that time, there's a lot of reviews of people comparing Pathfinder Beginner Box to D&D Essentials. And almost every time, Pathfinder Beginner Box is the winner. You know what I mean? But you look at Pathfinder Beginner Box 2e, it's a shadow of this. It's not even close. It was a once in a lifetime zeitgeist moment, and I don't think it'll be repeated, sadly.
I notice our good friend Elfbait has crept into the chat. Hello, Elfbait. How you doing? Come and join us. I mean, there's nothing to say you can't come and join us if you have little experience with starter sets, Elfbait. You can come and join us. You're more than welcome. Where was another? There was another comment. I did want to bring up. There was a quick question. If anyone wants to play Car Wars, we'll have a game of it in the channel at some point. I'll find a way of doing it online. Because it's good fun.
Mac asked about Space Opera, which is fantasy.
That's the one I'm looking for. That's the comment I'm looking for.
I read it, never played it, but I bought it because it looked cool. But I bought everything Fantasy Games Unlimited at that point in time. If it came out from FGU, I was buying it. It was just the way it was.
I've never heard of it.
And Leonard Pimentel has my copy of Cyworld that I had. Ooh.
I'm not cool, Mac. I've never heard of it. I'm sorry. You can cancel your subscription to my channel now if you wish. I'm not worthy.
But that's the thing. FGU never did a basic fantasy game, did they? They seem to do everything but fantasy. They did Japanese, they did space, and all of their box sets were complete games. So you can't really, again, with the yellow box thing, it's not a starter set, it's a game. But they're pretty damn good, and they taught you how to game, and they were able to publish games in 40 pages or less, right?
That was the one with you had the 4-player starter adventure with Captain Marvel, Spider-Man, Captain America, and Thing. Was that? I'm just trying to remember because I had a Marvel superhero set as a kid. That's the one. Yep. Okay.
And the adventure is called Day of the Octopus.
I vaguely recall.
And it's very linear. It's very linear, but it's good fun. And it's good for a good couple of sessions of play.
It's a fun game. It's a good game, but again, it's a full game. It's not a starter set.
Right.
But the advanced one is where they made the game. It really became its own thing when the advanced set hit.
Yeah. Indeed. Right. The other starter sets I've got, it's pretty obvious I'm gonna wave in front of you now. The one I believe to be the best physical starter set I own. It's a fabulous starter set. It's no shock at all.
Imagine my surprise.
Because this starter set is superb. You get multiple adventures, including a choose your own adventure and 2 scenarios, one very gentle starting one and one not so gentle one. You get a good rundown of the rules, you get dice, characters, everything you need to get going. And you've got 3 adventures there to play in total. One which will explain the rules to you, one which will lead you into running a game with 1 or 2 players, and one slightly bigger one. So it's perfectly paced, perfectly put together. You don't always die in Call of Cthulhu. That is wrong.
You die or you go insane.
Whoa, do you remember the first edition Call of Cthulhu box set where the starter adventure was 5 or 6 adventures and the last adventure Cthulhu shows up? So you're dead or insane at the end of the starter adventure. Yeah, that there was one. There was a thinner one. I remember though. I remember those.
Yeah. That's the 40th anniversary Kickstarted reissue. That one there.
Okay.
But the other one, I mean, I've just been browsing. I put a video up on it yesterday. The One Ring starter set. Elfbait very kindly gave me a little birthday present of some credits on one of the sites, and I bought the PDF of the One Ring, browsed it, and when Black Friday came along, I bought a physical copy as well because I like it so much. I want that physical copy. I want another set of the dice. The map is gorgeous. The books are absolutely beautifully presented, and they even tweak the rules in fifth edition. In second edition, the One Ring, things are based on a target number, and your target number for a success is 20 minus your relevant stat. So if you've got a strength of 4, you've got a target number of 16. For the purpose of the starter sets adventure, they brought that down a couple of points just to make it a bit easier for beginners. And the adventure is very gentle, but it's very thematic, based in the Shire. You all play hobbits, nothing particularly heroic, but it leads you in very nicely. And the whole presentation of it is beautiful. So I will say that might well usurp Call of Cthulhu as my favorite starter set when I get my hands on the physical box, which hasn't arrived yet. Unfortunately.
Quite nice.
It's very pretty. Very pretty.
There's a cat living where I am now. One day he will grace his appearance once he's comfortable enough with me, I'm sure. And then we'll all have cats.
Well, this is Misty, and Misty rarely does these appearances, so it's quite entertaining to see Misty's attracted to John's nonsense.
Kabuki Kid. While I would run Paranoia for beginners. I would make a point of making it very clear it's not like most role-playing games in that it is just pure carnage and is best played after downing at least a 4-pack of beer before you start, and then you just go bonkers. But the reason I like starter sets, Mr. Max, is I am terrible at digesting rules. My preferred way of digesting rules is to dive into a game that I've never played before with a DM who knows it inside out, and I learn as we go. That is my preferred way of doing it. But if I can't do that, I'll get a starter set, and hopefully with maybe with an introductory scenario, and I'll read it page by page, cross-referencing with the introductory scenario to try and imagine how it'll all work out. Only then can I actually try and piece together. I've had that One Ring hardback book for over a year now, and I haven't pieced it all together yet at all. So that's why I've gone for the starter set. I'm awful at doing learning new rules. So
One says a question here: what are your standards of new players playing over the top and maybe cringe elf characters?
Thankfully, it hasn't happened.
I don't care what they play. As long as it's within the parameters I've laid out. And if they want to play a total jackass, the world's going to react to how they act. Other players are going to react to how they act. So let players go nuts. You're not obliged to play along. The world will react how the world reacts. The in-game world, obviously, and I guess the out-of-game world. And if somebody's I've had players go up and spit in noblemen's faces because they hate the nobility, and then why am I being hauled off to the dungeon? It's like, well, that's how this world works.
Actions have consequences. I'm teaching you the game, young Padawan.
They're getting off easy.
Yeah,
I would be going, that's assault on a nobility.
Yeah, that's a death sentence. But
that right there, that's the gallows. Or worse, that's public torture.
Yeah, but they get hauled off to the dungeon before they get to the gallows. So.
Oil the breaking wheel.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, I don't care. Let new players explore and let them learn the lessons they've got to learn. It doesn't usually derail a game. I mean, and if every player is getting in on the nonsense, well, then they're having fun. So be it.
Yeah. I just want to remind people, if people aren't seeing all the chat that we're seeing, we've got quite a few people in on Mage's channel and quite a few people in on my channel. We've actually got 40 people combined on the two channels. So chat's been nice and busy in both channels, but some people won't be seeing everything. But that's just the way. That's just the way these simul streams work. So we're reading everything. We can see everything, but you who are watching the stream, unfortunately, can't.
Every time I look at a chat, it blips up, and it's like, God damn it, I got to scroll to find it.
Yeah, because chat's been really, really busy tonight, which is fantastic.
Yeah,
and
positive.
Reaching 40 people, even though it combined is superb. Yeah, it is the main problem with Simul Stream. So we don't all have starter sets, Saxius. It's only reason why you've never invested in a starter set.
I've always done sandbox.
And you, I mean, you're the sort of person who will digest rules.
Yeah, like it. Yes, I sit down, and right now my biggest problem is the time. But if I get time, I sit down, I digest rules, I read them, I read them, I read them. I mean, I'm second edition. I'm going back. I'm rereading the core 3 books to get reacquainted with all the nuances and smaller details and things like that. Same with 5th edition. I do that over and over because I'm very much like, once I understand the mechanics behind it, it will stick like glue. And given how how I operate as a DM, it's very mechanical. Once I can see the math and the logic behind it, I have parameters that I can work with, and I've got my box and I can run around the box because I know what square it's going. I know what the purpose is. I know the intent. But I'm very much, once I understand what the intent of the game is, I will go for it. I didn't start out that way. I started out doing a lot of mistakes, and I took notes. I asked for feedback, good, bad, constructive, the whole 9 yards, and built from there.
Right, Halakars asks this: would any of us recommend playing a computer game based on D&D before picking up dice and the character sheet?
No.
Not if you want to learn to roleplay, no.
I'd go the opposite. Yeah, why not?
That's 4 no's. 4 flat no's. I think it as you say, it leads people into a more constrained style of play where you're working within the mechanics, not where you're thinking within the mechanics and thinking how you can best use the mechanics to do what you want to do, rather than thinking, what do I want to do and how can I, and leave the DM with the job of how can that be framed with the mechanics if necessary. So I'm in agreement.
Yeah, no, as a teaching guide, no. If you just want to play a video game, well, then whatever, go ahead. But it definitely not necessarily as a teaching guide. But that's not to say that, some video games can't contribute to...
Yeah, Champions and Mistara. It's a really good teaching module for playing D&D. Play that video game. You'll learn.
All ones, best version of Paranoia.
When does the little guy show up, I get to hit for potions. Come on. Video games are a very different beast, man. No matter how close they come. I think even I would say probably Fallout, the original Fallout was the closest thing I've seen in a video game to in a role-playing game. In how you created your character, maybe.
Fallout New Vegas is amazing.
I've never played anything after the original.
Oh, it's so good.
I also like seeing how far back in the chat Len is. He's still talking about One Ring.
Yeah, and like I said, video games can add a lot. They can inform you. They can give you inspiration and guidance to playing games, but they not as a starter, not as a I'm not going to tell somebody to go play Baldur's Gate as a primer to come join my table game, because it is a completely different experience. But Baldur's Gate, play.
I would argue that the video games is the gateway for you coming into the hobby itself.
Yeah, it can be. That's not the point. The point I'm getting at is it's not necessarily good guidance to how to play at the table.
No.
Yeah, as a gateway to get in, 100%. But because I know I have people at my table who, I mentioned Baldur's Gate, their experience was only Baldur's Gate. And it was such a shock to them to see how it worked at the table. Right.
Oh yeah.
So as a tutorial, no. Video games, no. As a gateway or just sort of just side entertainment or inspiration, sure, why not?
No, definitely. But I would at the very least argue that, again, yes, not the thing to say. Before we're gonna play this tabletop game, go and play this other video game like that. I agree on that end. That's not the point of video games. It's its own separate thing. But I think it is a very good way of getting the interest, of getting people in. I know, at least my Saturday group, one of my players there, after he played Baldur's Gate 3, he came back and basically said, there was an interpretation of how Speak with Dead works that he was really impressed with. Mm-hmm. And there were other aspects of the game that sort of brought out things that he went, you know what? I did not give it that level of thought that these guys did. That's inspired me to go and do more, say, as a DM and as a player.
I don't disagree. I'm just from the perspective of getting new players to the table. That's the extent of my.
I just want to dive in before we greet Omanal, who no doubt has something to say because Omanal always has something to say. I have stood up for a reason here.
Beware.
Did you break your chair?
No.
Back.
Jay, I'm going to answer Jay's thing here. What do I think of noobs creating and running characters out of D&D Beyond for 5th edition? Right. I understand how D&D Beyond is a useful tool for storing characters and transporting characters and all of that. But absolutely not for a newcomer coming to the game, because it encourages players to just simply press a button and have a utility do all the adding up for them. A game will run much more smoothly, much more smoothly if the player creates a character on a character sheet and adds up those bonuses following the basic rules at the start. At least they get a bit of a grasp of how the mechanics work. They know where their bonuses come from, or at least at some point it's going to be in their mind where the bonuses come from. They've got a little idea of how things link together, but in the case of D&D Beyond, it just encourages people to be damn lazy.
I don't care so long as they're making the character within the parameter I've laid out. And if we're playing at the table, you better bloody well have transcribed it to pen and paper, because I don't want you fucking on your phone with looking up your character shit.
Absolutely.
But beyond that, by all means, use the tool.
Look, it's a useful tool for storing, quickly creating spare characters if you already know what you're doing. I say transporting characters from game to game, that sort of thing. Testing out little ideas with characters. Yes, those sort of things. Fine. But just make sure your first couple of characters are done on paper. It's also much quicker to have a character in front of you and find something on the character sheet than it is to pick up a phone and go, "Oh yeah, there's my inventory." When it's on a piece of paper in front of you.
Maybe I'm old school, but and I haven't used D&D Beyond for this. But thank you for creating a character. Let's hit print. And now here's your character sheet in front of you, and move
that's
on.
one way of doing it. That's one way of doing it.
And that's the way that I look at that. But
Straw Piglet, I'm guessing your membership came through Crafting Gamer being very generous early on, so that's where it's come from. So, Omanal, the floor is yours. You have a 5-minute time limit here.
All right. Well, that's good. Yeah, I can see Bear's eyesight there. Now, I know that I mentioned this in the Discord. I love the Free League starter sets. You get a
the One Ring.
You get the setting. You know what's there. They do a lot of IPs, so you know what you're getting. The players know what they're getting into. You hand some character sheets out. They've got tokens. They've got maps. They've got simple rules. And you can just kind of just run fairly quickly. And to me, that's the big factor for all of this, is how easy is it to run. And no matter what game you have, if the players don't enjoy the setting or the genre, it's going to probably fail. And that, to me, is the biggest thing, that it reduces that barrier of entry. And I know that Bear talks about Pathfinder starter set being wonderful starter sets. And they aren't looking at 20 character levels down they're looking, I'm looking like 3 or 4 or 5, and they're not overwhelmed. And guess what? If the players don't like the system, hey guys, we did this, you got your experience, we can try something else pretty quickly. And a lot of starter sets are, to be fair, they're dirt cheap compared to,
yes,
the hardbacks.
And if you get 3 or 4 months of gaming and then you decide to play something else, you haven't lost all that much. They're typically sort of between 15 and £25 for a starter set on average.
Even the old BX starter set, now that I've been playing with you guys, generally, how long is it going to take to go up a few levels? It's going to take probably 8 to 10 sessions. By then, you kind of know whether you like the game or not. So, and it makes it easy. And then they're like, "Well, we'll buy the expanded version or whatever." And so that's the way I look at it. And to be fair, is I like the Year Zero engine. It's fairly simple and intuitive. Oh, I just add more dice. I add my skill. I add this. Roll the number of dice. If I get sixes, I succeed. If I roll ones, I get some bad things. Let's move on. That's the way I look at it. That makes it very easy for players. It's not overly complicated. And you still get, and I know we all talk about that dopamine hit. Boy, when you get stacking up a couple of sixes, you're like, oh, I'm excited. And then if you get a couple of those negative ones, you're like, you get that stress aspect if you're playing Alien. So I think it's fun from that perspective. But the most important thing is players have to be engaged and they have to want to do it. There was nothing worse than trying to drag. And when we say new players, I'm talking about just new players to a new system. Someone bought a book and we're like, okay, we'll play it because we don't want to DM, and everyone walks over and does it that way. All right.
Right. You've started to touch on my next topic, and this is really where we get into, I think, the nuts and bolts of all of this. And this, it's also the last topic I've got, but I think it's a big one. This is methods and approach when introducing new players and playing their first few sessions with them. The best ways to introduce them to the game in terms of your approach, the best ways to sort of react to how they play, to think about how the group is composed, and how to present yourself as the dungeon master. Sort of things you say to them, and the sort of approach you have towards them and their characters. Because to me, it does feel a little different in that I feel I am there as almost in a teaching role, but I don't want them to feel different in the game, if you get what I mean. You do have to slightly adjust your own approach, but not too much so that they feel different. We've already had the fresh ideas thing mentioned, and I do want to come back to that. One reason why I love playing for new players is they think of things that more established players do not. And we have to accept that. We're all established players. A new player, if the five of us were at a table and a sixth person joined us, I can guarantee you they would come up with something during the session that would make us all think, yeah. That's if they're engaged in the game, that is. But they do have this wonderfully fresh approach to gaming. Anybody disagree?
No, I agree with you on that. I'm just gonna, but I do love that whole idea of, and I heard this about some Pathfinder, a couple years ago, where they're talking about the players start playing the system rather than what makes sense for the setting.
Yeah, but you can teach them out of that too. I mean, get them to the table, let them play the system, but eventually you can finesse them away from that idea.
But I do think most people do go through that phase of playing the system. You go in as a fresh-faced newbie, you learn the system, you start playing the system, and then hopefully you get drawn out of that style of play. I say hopefully. There will people who say there's no wrong way to play, but to be honest, yeah, there is. There is. Overusing the system.
Well, there's a wrong way of playing. If you're playing that doesn't gel with the group, then you're playing it wrong.
Yes.
Yes. It doesn't matter. I mean, I hate saying this. I've never played Volmesh, but I've looked at it. Some people love the super crunchy system. They like to do all that. That's great. As I get older, I don't want to deal with that. And then I'm just like, okay, this game isn't for me. Thanks a lot, guys. I'll go wander off. And, I appreciate the offer of playing.
Bear, anything to add?
Nope.
Does that mean you're in agreement?
Nope.
You're not in agreement.
Nope.
So what? So go on and argue.
Nope.
Why not?
Because I've eaten enough shit. I'm tired of people telling me my opinions are bulldozers, so I have no opinion on this, sir. I have thoughts and feelings, but I'm not sharing them.
Oh, go on.
Nope, John.
Go on.
Nope, nope. It's Christmas. It's the time of joy.
You need the Santa hat. You need the Santa hat there.
Oh, hang on. I can get my. Hang on.
Okay.
Sean, you got anything to add to this?
Nope. Yeah, you're hilarious, Sean. Get it. You're fucking.
I am hilarious. I know. Yeah, I mean, in terms of style of play, I mean, and you know, we laugh about there's no wrong style of play, but I agree with Open Al 100% that the wrong way is the way that doesn't gel with the table. And when I'm bringing a new player in, I try to at least impart the expectation. This is how this table is playing. Those of you guys who watch my show know that I had an evil group. I was running an evil group through a thing, and anybody who comes to the table knows that anything goes. These players are evil and they will go to town. The group that is now picking up that storyline is all good, and they have the exact opposite. Everybody, the expectation is you are good aligned, and you'll play within the team. So anything goes, but the table rules. The table rules rule, for lack of a better expression. And I think it's important to convey that to anybody coming in to sit at the table. And even Rick, who played the leader of Team Evil, when I told him, yeah, it's fine, you come in and guest with Team Good, but you got to understand that it's not just the rules of the characters. These are a group of players who don't want to mix it up, and they don't want to do backstab, and they don't want to do any PvP. So you can't bring your evil character in and start causing shit, because the group just doesn't want to play that way. And in terms of learning the rules, like the mechanics of it, all that will just come with time. So I think it's important not to new players will be overwhelmed. Sorry, I'm trying to collect my thoughts. New players will often be overwhelmed. I remember getting a friend of mine into the game. He was over 50. I think he was 55 at the time. And I showed him the books on my shelf. The D&D books is row, two shelves full of books. And he's like, I gotta know all that. I'm like, no, you don't have to know a damn thing. And this man was an actor. I said, just think of it as an acting role. You were coming in, make choices based on the situation that's described and what the point of view of the character you've chosen to play will be. And I told him that, he got it. He got it right away. It was to him. And then the rules just started coming slowly. So I think it's important to impart, don't fret the rules, and give a little tutorial on what's expected at your table. So I'm going to stop rambling now because I'm starting to lose the plot.
Saxius?
What is it exactly what my insights on? Like, what's the specific question that we are going to answer here?
Oh, you zoned out, have you?
Well, I think we've covered a lot of it in terms of like what we do when players are being brought in and what we do to accommodate for them. I mean,
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to come on to another one. Sean's mentioned this early on. Group composition. Was it Sean or was it Bear? Where you have one or two experienced players to help them out, and a group of newcomers. And I think that's an excellent idea, where you have the newcomers bouncing these sort of fresh, original ideas off each other, and you have one player who is really familiar with the setting, really familiar with the rules and how things are played and what's expected at the table, who can help guide them and maybe get them to frame things in the way that is best done in terms of the game. I think that's a very, very good way of doing it.
You get just one. Just one, not one or two. Because when you have two, there's going to be a risk the two veteran players are going to team up together and dominate.
Right,
so you need just one vet to lead the nooblers, and then that way they'll learn and go through that as you go.
That really helps with in terms of rule familiarization as well.
1000%, absolutely.
Because it lets the DM concentrate on running the game, whereas the rules can be transmitted through the experienced player.
No.
There,
When there's one voice saying, "Hey, I don't think this is a good idea," the other new players get to weigh whether or not they think that's a good idea or not. When you have two people telling them it's a bad idea, now they're going to just de facto go okay or confront it. So it's best to just have the one voice. It becomes more of a discussion and less of a lecture.
Okay,
I'm going to.
good. I mean, go on.
Well, I was going to bring up the other point too. Is your veteran player can also bring up bits of lore and things like that the DM is while he's trying to focus on the telling, the environment, the story, and everything else. The other player can say, "Oh, by the way, this king is blah blah blah," or and they can act as the, so that they can give all of the non-mechanical stuff information as well. That the DM doesn't feel like he's having to give expositions for everything.
And I think that's, touching on the lore point is very, very helpful. In my MERP game, I've got a decent grasp of Middle-earth lore and a decent grasp of the time of that the game is set, but I'm by no means an expert. We do have one guy in the group. Enjoying your dinner? What's for dinner?
Well, a lot of cheese with
Poison.
No, it's clam chowder. So.
It's poison to me, though.
Oh, okay. Well, that's true because I put heavy cream in there on top of with the cheese.
It'd be brutal. It'd be brutal. But no, in our MERP game, we've got one guy in that group who is a absolute Tolkien nerd. Now, sometimes Tolkien nerds can be difficult because they can be very pedantic. He's not. He sits back and lets the game flow, but he's there for almost my backup in terms of lore at times, which is really, really nice to have.
It's helpful.
Because it is very helpful. And he handles it very well. So Duralumin, if you're watching, thank you. I appreciate your presence in that game. Hello, Joker. Joker is... you've called yourself me, Joker. But Joker is one of the newcomers. I mentioned having new people on the Discord playing. He played his first game on Saturday afternoon, game of OSE. That's the first time he'd ever played this sort of game. And he's coming back for more. He's signed up for Call of Cthulhu as well. Right, next one. This is something I have seen before, and that I think it's very, very good as a DM to really make your motives as a DM very clear early on, because not everyone coming into the game will have the idea of what a DM should be correctly formulated in their mind. And there are quite a lot, and I've seen so many people on various message boards, Facebook groups or whatever, talking about struggling to trust DMs and struggling and having to, and I personally think a game is doomed if you don't trust the DM, but I think it's a really good approach to have, to be very open when you start out, very open with how you intend to DM the game, very open with your roles, in most cases, combat roles, that sort of thing. Say, look, these are my roles. This is how I'm playing it. I'm playing it very straight, to get any of those sort of lingering misconceptions put out the way straight away.
Right.
No one want to add anything to that? You're welcome to discuss. This is just a
but there's nothing really to add, because this is the point of, like, it's a social contract, and we've discussed this at numerous points. There's a social contract for the group and everyone else to be there. The DM takes a role, the player takes a role. You can't have one without the other. And the discussions about, I can't trust my DM, well, that's usually because the DM is abusing that position. They're abusing that contract, that social contract. That comes
regarding new players, is just making it very clear. The idea is that the DM is not your adversary. The DM is
If
there
it's in the
to
game.
Yeah, okay. So when they are new players, like as a DM, like you need to have the tact and the the awareness. You're not dealing with Bob, who's been playing with you for 3 years and knows you inside and out, or you're not playing with Sam, who has survived his 6-month probation period of being with the group. You're playing with someone who's brand new and who's just come in. So you, as a DM, you also have to take on the mindful position and role of a tutor and or even like borderline, teacher to help them get into it because they've come out of their free time. They are investing their interest, they could be doing who knows what else, with that same time for your game. So as a dungeon master, as a game master, you should be putting that time in so that it's invested. It's one of the reasons why I crack down hard on players that waste the group's time. They can waste my time. That's fine. I can ordain whether or not it's all right to waste it. But if I start seeing players wasting other players' time, I will crack down on that because you're stealing time from someone else, and that's not okay by me. So for new players coming in, get to know them is also really important. You have to know what they're like. You have to know why they're here. What was their interest? Why have they come to your group? What similarities do you have? Because there's nothing worse than a new person coming in and you are starting to sort of see like, okay, this is my style, this is what they want. Are they willing to go down and maybe meet my style by me being transparent about how I make my rulings, how I do my things, how this game works, how this group dynamic works? If that is the case, it is the more mature thing to turn around and say like, okay, well, listen, here's how I run this specific game. Now, give it a go, see if it works out for you. If it does, fantastic, please stay. If not, listen, that's all good, but at least have it a go like that. It's communication at the end of the day.
Yeah. I'm just going to say, YouTube has just blocked me from saying boot them in the nuts in chat.
What?
Originally, it was kick them in the nuts. I changed it to boot them in the nuts, which worked last week, and now that doesn't work.
Big Brother
So
is watching.
Stomp the groin.
I'm gonna have to, nuts is gonna have to change. I might have to put a Z on the end of nuts.
That's the easiest way to fix things, right?
Yeah. Anyway,
the whole idea of trust of the
welcome,
GM and trust of the table and all that stuff. It's such a pointless and silly argument to me because it's your friends. You're playing with your friends. You're
Not always.
Okay. Other than online play or tournament convention play, which one I do, one I don't. The point is at the core of it all, the game was designed to be played around a table with friends.
Yeah. Yes.
Therefore, we don't need to get into these goddamn trust exercises. And one of the things that drives me a little bit up the wall is what Sachs said was he goes, if the trust issue for the DM and the DM's abusing that power, or maybe the player's a whiny shit who doesn't get everything to go the way they want to. So instead of accepting that they're being demanding and wanting everything to go their way, they accuse the GM of being the problem. There's so many levels of nuance and context that folds into this argument. There is no solution for it. It has to be handled on a table-by-table instance, in my opinion. But that is just my opinion. I don't mean to tell anyone else how to think.
I've said my approach when running games, Manfred did ask, you don't hide any. Yeah, I do hide some dice rolls from the players. I hide quite a lot of dice rolls from the players. But combat rolls, I make out in the open.
That's why I do player-facing roles. It's much easier. They spell their own doom.
No.
I use a screen for the purpose of sometimes for the purpose of worrying the players, making rolls that don't mean anything. They think might mean something.
We're on to psychological warfare, and I approve.
So what I used to do in Marvel was I would sit down and I printed up this chart I had that had all the players' characters written across the top, and then it was I think 1 to 100, not 1 to 100, but 1 to 20 or whatever it was, and I would have them at the start of the session roll random intuition checks and just write the numbers down in the column for me. And then during play, when I wanted to see if they were surprised by something, I'd just roll an intuition check behind, cross-index, and see who succeeded and who failed without ever having to alert them that something was going on. And sometimes I'd just do that for shits and giggles. and just watch them start going, whoa, 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 whoa. And then like they get all super paranoid. Why not? It's fun.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Did anyone ever send out text messages to their players asking them to roll a d20 for a save throughout the week?
I actually, a lot of times I saw the little bit different, which was, hey, roll a d20 just to get someone worried that you're doing something. And
Yeah, exactly. Like you do that, or you just like give me a d20. I'll add your modifiers. Don't worry about it.
No, yeah. Or you just roll
Yeah.
some dice and go, what was your willpower save again?
Exactly. Like but you do that out of game. Just send them a text and it's like, here's what's going on. Can you quickly get me updated? That's fine. Can I quickly have a copy of a character sheet? How long did it take you to make a character last time? All right, super. Thanks.
Just a word of warning to the audience: when luring in new players, save the psychological warfare for after they're hooked.
Listen, again, transparency. Like I tell the players up front, listen, once you've gotten in a little bit, it will start escalating.
If you're dumb enough to play Cyberpunk with me as your first game, well, I warned you. Now you're finding out. I'm not pulling my punches. It's Cyberpunk.
I'm going to bring the other part too, especially if you have really new players. Provide the stuff that they need. Have enough dice sets for each player. We don't expect them to bring their own because they especially if it's their first game ever.
If they're new, yeah.
Yeah, that's part of it. It's like, here you go, and here are the cut down rules. Here are the just so they can flip through a little bit. Like, oh, okay, I used to create 3-ring binders. I put basic rules. I put whatever they needed in there. It'd be on the character sheet, and so they could flip a little bit. Then I gave them tokens. Then they had the dice and everything else, and so it was like, oh. Everything's set. This is what I do, and say, okay, this is your health, and especially if it's low level. Hey, however many, especially if you use like magic or things like that with the little glass beads, those are your hit points. Take them away, add them back, and go through, and that worked out pretty well. The other part I'm going to bring is food. Nothing.
Teacher, Bear has a question.
Before you get off on the food, when I was doing my 5e Noobler game, I actually printed up placemats for them that had all of their basic actions listed out, various information, and pictures of each die with the name of the die on it, because nothing was more annoying than saying roll a d20 and having like the Latino go, which one is that again?
D20, yeah.
Oh, Jesus Christ. The one has 20 fucking sides. Like, Jesus Christ, So here's all the fucking dice for you, too.
It's the closest one to a sphere. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's a sphere?
This was a person, I loved her to tears, but this was a person when I said, okay, well, they're 3 abreast. She looked at me like I had grown a second head. And then one of the English players went, what does that mean? I'm like, abreast, side by side. And they're like, oh, no. That's when I realized there's a big lack of education in the younger generation on how English works. I could forgive the person whose language was their second language. The first language people was like, what the fuck's wrong with you?
I have had to call out a native English speaker because they said, I don't know nothing. And I went, so you know something? What? No, I said, I don't know nothing. I was like, double negatives.
Yeah, well, that's the British slang, right?
Oh, no, it is a British slang, but like there are rules to their own language, as I kept pointing out.
And they only inflict them on other people. They don't inflict them on themselves.
Just because we outnumber the Brit is not licensed to attack him.
Yes, it is. It's absolutely licensed to do so. It's what the world should have done when they left their island in the first place, but that's beside the point. Hi, John. I haven't picked on England for this entire stream. I thought I'd get some in before we were done.
No,
we got on a whole hour left.
To be honest, though, I have found that playing role-playing games, it has massively expanded my English vocabulary. I've just had to look up so many words, and I have to actually adapt to that and look up sayings. It's fantastic. It's for me as a non-English speaker, or non-native English speaker. It's helped me immensely for that, and that's also another thing, especially in my experience. What's up?
It helps.
This has become a meme.
Brian bringing his meme back.
No, Oscar. It helps me too. When I was 8.
When you were 8 years old, yeah.
Well, don't get me wrong. It's still expanding it to this day. Like, what the hell is that word? But yeah, it's like, but when you're 8, you have to live next to the dictionary. What the
Yeah.
hell is this one? You know?
I used to underline words in books that I was reading to go look them up, and my grandmother got mad at me for writing in books until she saw why I was doing it. And she's like, "Oh, okay, you're fine." I was like, "Okay, thanks."
Hey, did you know how long it took me to forget what rendezvous, how long it was to spell that?
Yeah, well, Patrice O'Neill still has the best one ever. He says, if someone put a gun to my mother's head, and said, "Spell restaurant," I'd be like, "Mom, I love you," but because it's there are times you'll go rest, and then you sort of get that middle part screwed up, right? So, English is a fantastic language, and I don't fault anyone whose second language it is for not knowing a word like abreast or, what have you. But some people, they were born English, they speak English, and they don't read. And one of the things we have as a benefit in our crowd is that we are all readers. At least our generation was. Now with the younger people, they don't read as much as we do, or they just read garbage like Harry Potter, which is just bubblegum for the brain, right? And as a result of that, you got to be careful with the nooblers to find ways to have cultural touchstones to them based on your age gap difference, because it is a difference and it does do something.
I'm going to
spot the problem in this comment.
North Americans picking on the English language never ceases to amaze me. North Americans is not possessive. It's meant to be plural.
North American is picking on the English.
Or North Americans possessively picking on the English. Which is it, man?
Yeah. There is a rogue apostrophe in there.
Yeah.
Protect RP!
I know Bear's a big, or was a big comic book fan. And I was going back reading some of the comics that we read in the 1980s. And the vocabulary was...
Oh, dear God, in the 70s.
Yeah.
I had to look at words like poltroon. What the hell's a poltroon? And why is he calling this guy a poltroon? I mean, it's the fun of it all.
And that was aimed at young kids. They weren't aimed at adults at the time. So it's you're right.
Check out Weird Al's song "Word Crimes." It's one of his best ever.
Okay,
he goes through all this. It's brilliant. Just a brilliant takedown of misuse of the English language.
So but I'll bring the other part is, which Bear cut me off for this, which was good. Was
it lasted as long as it could, but I guess it's over now. All right, go ahead, Omino.
Well, bringing food, just whether it's tortilla chips and just something to make it just a pleasant experience overall. Even if the game is a bust, at least as long as people are laughing and they had a good experience, and they're just like, okay, I'll come back again. But making it so they have to starve and there's nothing to drink and everything else. Yeah, I wouldn't want to come back to that experience.
Manfred, I hope I don't offend people now by saying a very high percentage of us older gamers will have something along those lines and probably be undiagnosed.
I'm offended, but I forgot what you were talking about.
There you go.
I have OCD. That's what I have. I have bad OCD too. And it's things like Photoshop really compound it for me. Like if I'm working on a map or an image or a logo, I will lose hours playing with pixels to get it just the way I want it. You know what I mean? So I get that. That's why I tend to wing my games now. It's because I learned if I obsess about it, I'm going to not have as much fun running it, where it's much easier to just have a series of events I want to have happen and see if the players get me there, and have fun with that. Much easier in the long run. That's why I don't run pre-canned modules either. But that's a skill I had to learn. So a noobler might have a hard time winging it. And I think that's one of the problems. I mean, we talked about how to bring new players in, but how do you develop new GMs? How do you develop new DMs? What are the skills they need to learn? What is the practice they need to have? And what real resources are out there for them to be able to pick that up on their own?
Well, I think it helps if they start by playing.
What the hell was this?
I have a PowerPoint.
Oh.
Yes, thank you, Reading Rainbow.
Well, it definitely helps if they come in playing, right? Because that'll give them the taste, and then they start. Especially if somebody comes in playing with the idea that they want to DM, they will play and they will start absorbing everything. So that's definitely one avenue. But there are definitely players coming in that you got. When we were kids, nobody wanted DMs, so somebody had to do it, but nobody knew how. That person face plants a lot and learns how to do it.
I'll bring this up. Most players are pretty forgiving because they don't want to be the DM, but still want to play. So it's like, oh, okay,
Especially among a group of friends. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. Right. Other things I've got jotted down here. I've got a little note here saying, don't wrap them in cotton wool. Stay true to the game's style, but be a little forgiving in terms of the, are you sure you want to do that type approach?
Can we wrap them in steel wool and then send them into a dynamo factory?
Well, again,
I
like
imagine Saxius has already done that.
There have been times where we've been on this where we've been talking and I've said some of my stuff and I've seen Sax has gone, now I have a good idea. Like it's disturbing how critically evil this man's brain is when it comes to players.
Steel wool, you say?
It is conductive to electricity, yes.
it is indeed.
But
Mind
I mean,
you, I've already given one of my players, rather than heat metal, just gave them heat blood.
Here you go. Here's
Why
a
not?
steel wool exfoliant. Enjoy.
But I say I just wrote that down as just something to bring up in conversation. I don't know if you all agree with that sort of approach.
Listen,
Sorry, we're being snarky. What approach?
It was don't wrap them in cotton wool. Stick to the intended game style, but be willing to advise with a gentle "Are you sures?" and little suggestions along the way.
I'll accept that third part.
I even with my veteran players, I'll just go, really? Okay. And give them that moment to go, wait, hang on, no, I'm okay. Look, this may be a popular opinion, this may be an unpopular opinion. It is only my opinion, and I'm not telling anyone how to run their games. FBI warning has played on the video.
Damn it! We want you to tell us how to play.
I'll tell you how to talk if you don't stop. It's not a fucking survival game. How good you are at D&D doesn't prove how great a man or a person you are. And this is not meant to cause fucking psychic scars and trauma to people for years to come. It's meant to be fucking fun. And it's fun sometimes to go, really? And watch your players react to that. It's fun sometimes when one of the players says the wrong thing and one of the other players looks and goes, shut up, because they're giving the DM ideas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I get really arsed off and tired of this mentality and this approach that I see way too often in our age category for what gaming is it's some sort of fucking endurance test. It's not on the sheet, it's in your head and all this bullshit. It's a fucking game. Do you play Monopoly like this? Because you must be exhausting to play Monopoly with, Like, Jesus Christ. Have fun. Unclench. This is what led to the fantasy fucking Vietnam trope, was that mentality of gaming. And it's not, for me, it's not enjoyable. For you, it might be. If you and your players are having fun, fill your boots. I would never dream to tell you I'm right and you're wrong. But for me, this is an issue.
But for me, this is about sort of an approach to take with new players. What we're trying to do is we're trying to ensure they enjoy the game, learn a bit about the game, and most importantly, come back. And we hook them in to our hobby.
You scale the game appropriately to the people you play with. That's my take. Like you're playing with new people. Well, scale your game appropriately. Don't have them. What I do, send them out into the wilderness. Let them fight goblins in the middle of the night, and watch them enjoy, the equivalent of Vietnam and Flash and blah 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 blah. No. Bear is absolutely right. You're here to have fun. That's why we're doing this. We're here to have escapism, and for that group, according to what you have and what you deal with as a DM, I would expect them to scale things around to suit what the requirement is, what the demand is from that group, and what the agreement is. Because that's what we're here for. If that's not fun, if new players are coming in and give an unfun time, well, they won't join. They won't come back. I know I won't come back if I'm coming in and going like, oh, well, I have gone through 3 characters in one session, and I'm a bit unsure about what the hell is actually happening. You know what? These guys are having fun. I'll bow out and make the seat for someone who is actually enjoying it, and then step out. Yes, I've got my evil ways of doing things, but I do it into the groups that I know can deal with it and that would enjoy
Yep.
it. Exactly. You have to know your crowds.
Yep.
So, no, John, I disagree. Put wool around them and bring them in. Build them up. It's what I did with my Curse of Strahd campaign. I told them from the get-go, listen, you guys are going into a setting that I know intrinsically well, but I need you guys to be built up so that there will be a point where you realize it is going to get harder and harder and harder. But it is about you guys progressing up there. It took me about a year to get them to that point, but they're there. They're enjoying it, and I'm taking them through Red Hand of Doom now. They are having a blast, and I am throwing the kitchen sink at them, and they're getting through some of these fights, bruised, battered, but enjoying it. They're coming back for more, and they're looking at me at the end of each night and saying, we had an absolute blast.
Imagine
right
if
there,
you went
that-
out. Sorry.
No, I'm done.
No, but imagine if you went out to a pickup soccer game. Okay, sorry, footy. You went to a pickup footy game, and there was a bunch of really good footy players there who, instead of making you enjoy the game, played full tilt boogie like they were going up against Arsenal against you. 9 out of 10 of you are never coming back to play footy again.
No.
Because you got made to feel the worst thing possible. Stupid.
Yeah.
Incompetent. Incapable. This is a bad habit that we have in our hobby because our hobby did at one point in time, and maybe even to this day does a bit, attract very socially awkward people who may have been bullied themselves. And then suddenly they have an avenue where they can return the favor. And I hate to break the news to everybody who thinks they're better than that. 99% of people who have been bullied tend to bully when they have the opportunity to bully. And as a result of that, they create what I would use the modern term toxic environment for the new player to come into, or even the less seasoned player to come into. Sax is right. A group of old friends playing together who know how to play, boom, pull out the stops, go for it. Cyberpunk with me, well, you're getting what you came for. I came to have fun, and you guys are in my way of fun, so I'll just run over you, and that's fun for me. But if you're bringing in new people in D&D to a game, try and be considerate of that. Yes, cotton wool. Yes, take them by the hand. Yes, have the elf Uber brigade standing outside the dungeon with lemon water for them right away. Do whatever it takes to make them enjoy the game and slowly bring them into that. Get them to the point where they feel competent as players. They feel like they know what they're doing with their characters. They feel like they can work with the GM and watch the GM and start picking up the cues that the GM is sending. And eventually they will become awesome veteran players who won't have that chip on their shoulder and won't be writing fucking Reddit posts about evil DMs they've played with. What a crazy idea. I know. I'm mad. I'm crazy. But there you go.
Absolutely bonkers, Bear.
Lock him up.
Yep. They're coming to take you to a padded cell.
Attica.
But like if we play with John and we know playing Call of Cthulhu and it's a one shot, we probably all won't leave here alive. I mean, that's just I mean but that's the expectation. Again, like what you're saying with the expectation. But if I'm coming in there and I'm hey, we're going to be playing Kids on Bikes, I don't expect to suddenly come in and say, all right, this the kid gets chopped up by this, and like, hold on here, I thought we were playing like a Y8 game, not a an MA game. It's just a
that's what I meant by sort of going with the basic ideal of the game. I mean, if you're playing a Kids on Bikes game, you don't expect the kids to be crucified from lampposts. If unless you're playing Call of Cthulhu Kids on Bikes, but that's what there is. I mean, I like the idea of keeping the game. If a game is meant to be perilous, you keep it perilous, but you are willing to just sort of step back and say, it is the are you sure? You do realize you're very fragile. Think about this. I'd rather do that than give them something. I like to challenge them, but as actually said, I'm not going to throw them up against ridiculously hard things if they're complete beginners to start with. But if the dice turn against them, or they insist on doing something very stupid, I'm not going to save them.
I'm going to bring this up a little bit different, though. There should be consequences, but okay, I'm not going to kill your character off. Guess what? You're now knocked out. Now you find yourself in the dungeon, and now you have to deal with it from that standpoint.
That's one way of doing it. Yeah.
Not that you have to kill everyone off, which sometimes that's that's the classic stuff that we find in all of the literature for pulp. Oh well, so and so was knocked out, and now he finds himself. It's like, oh, okay, and the players go, oh man, I lost my great armor. What am I going to do now? It's like, well, okay, that's some of it, but yeah, I agree with you. It's just, oh, how many unless you're doing it purely as a joke, and I'm going to mention like the funnels for the DCC or something, where the expectation is your survival rate might be only 25% for the party. That's why you get 4 to 6 characters. Like, oh, okay, every player gets 4 to 6 characters. See how many you can make it through, and then the real challenge there is, did I do better than the other group that came through? But yeah.
There's a term I love. It's called ambassador. Are you the ambassador to this hobby, or are you not the ambassador to this hobby? And I think when you are the GM, there's a larger onus on you to be the ambassador to the hobby. Like it's imperative that you're an ambassador, because you are, for lack of a better term, the authority figure at the table. You are the person that they are dealing with, and it's important that you make sure the game is fun for them.
I'm going to bring one other thing. Do you want to play the game again as a DM? Because if you turn off the players, no players are playing with you, and you're not going to play a game.
Dive into the wonderful world of solo gaming that seems to be taking over these days, right?
There is a fine line to tread. I think there is a fine. I mean, I don't want to. People say wrap them up in cotton wool. I don't want to wrap them up in cotton wool. If a game is meant to be perilous, I want to keep the peril there, because
no, it's too perilous.
But I would be a little more gentle. There's a difference between there's a difference between wrapping up in cotton wool and being a little more gentle.
Well, they also don't know how to play. They don't know what the expectations are. If you're going to just be completely brutal to it, it's joking about this fantasy Vietnam. The players are supposed to go through the little boot camps. They can survive like the first day of their battle. So
I think part of the point is to make it clear beforehand what the game is meant to be like.
No, sorry. No, I was going to yes, but it is still to me, this would basically circle back to having a session 0 where candid discussion needs to be set, where the DM needs to be very open, especially if they're experienced, if they've got and if they've got experience under their belt, they need to lay out what the experience is, what their preferences are, what their styles are, and then see what there is. Especially when it comes to new people, what I find is a good way of gauging what to expect is basically seeing where they get the inspiration from. What was their introduction? Where are they getting this from? Because from there, I can sort of basically tone down, like, okay, where are they versus where am I? And how can I make these connections? And how can I make this bridge so that they can come over and enjoy the games the way I run them? But it will take work. It will take more work for a DM to do that, to bring them over there. And therefore, for new players, yes, I understand, John, you don't want to wrap them in wool, but if you want them to become a group of yours, then you've got to work them into liking your style. And that means that you've got to put in, not you, but like any DM will have to put in the effort to build that bridge, cultivate that relationship, make the effort of making a friend out of the person, especially if they're new and they're not in your usual circles. These are things you've got to do. It's effort. Just like making the module itself, it's going to take effort, social effort.
Well, that's what I mean by just sort of being a little bit more forgiving when it comes to rules interpretations, more forgiving when it comes to expectations, more forgiving when it comes to just say, are you really sure that's a very risky thing to do? Your odds are very poor.
Never tell me the odds. 1.
Shit. I mean, I'm happy to do things like that.
Wasn't there one in Doctor Who where they gave this really long number and he said, that's my lucky number?
I don't know. I haven't watched Doctor Who for 40 years.
Well, neither have I, so that's why someone else would pick it up. No, I think that's a lot of the impact of players learning, going through this. I know that everyone's talking about solo wargaming, but look, that the players are trying to learn just as much as anyone else. You don't send a toddler out there to go play stuff. What am I going to do?
Here's a personal question. From the hilt. Christy was asking, I'm not asking what others think of you, but do you feel that you are a good GM?
I feel I'm good at running the game I want to play.
I think that John is good at running a game for Call of Cthulhu.
Bears gurning in the corner.
How do we answer without sounding
Yeah, of course I think I'm a good fucking GM. I've been doing it for 30 fucking years, and players keep coming back to my table. I must be doing something right. Do I make mistakes? Absolutely. Do I miss things? Absolutely. Do I make dumb rookie errors sometimes? Absolutely. But overall, yeah, I'm good at what I do. Why not? I've earned my stripes. I've done my time. It's not arrogant to say you're competent at something. It's arrogant to say you're the best, which we all know is this guy.
I think Bear's answer has just summed it up. I mean,
Yeah,
yes, if we accept our mistakes, we've got players who come back, we've got experience, and we've found our niches to run games that we like and we're getting good feedback from. And I think it's fair to say we're all at very, very minimum competent and more than likely above average.
Pretty much. And to what I said, I mean, I run the game, the kind of game that I would like to play in, right? Everybody else runs their own style, and there's overlap and compatibility and what you're looking for in a game. But the thing that brings my players back is that they're in agreement. They like the way I run the game.
Yeah.
I can tell you right now, and this is not a dig, Bear, you probably wouldn't like my game long term.
No, and I know that.
Right? Yeah, exactly. And so, but for the players who like the style I run, it's gold.
And by the way, you might be wrong. I might absolutely enjoy your type of game. I would be willing to give it the one-off to see if I enjoyed it.
I agree,
right?
and I'm going based on what I know of you, and based on what I've seen, what you've said. But yeah, absolutely.
But I also haven't been a player for 30, almost 40 years at this point. I'm mostly a person who I'm a forever DM, as they say, right? I mean, that's what I am. So I don't know how good a player I'm. If I'm a good player, no, I don't think I'm a good player. I think I'm a terrible fucking player. But
Nerds knows how to get to a man's heart here.
Yes, care and feeding of your GM is important. Yes.
Oh no, she's saying she's the DM who feeds the players.
Oh, that's even worse. My God, no, they're supposed to feed you. What's wrong with you? Exploit those little minions. I mean, come to my table, have fun.
That was one thing that for me was great. Oh, we're gonna have a barbecue and peach cobbler and everything else. Like, yes, everyone will come back for that, even if they don't like your game.
Right. Next thing I've got here is ways of pulling players away from unrealistic expectations. Now, I've got this.
Kill them right away.
I've got this specifically because of the Matt Mercer effect, as it's now known. Like or love it, there will be people joining coming into our hobby who will have their first experience will have been watching Critical Role. And there will be people coming to our hobby whose first experience will have been playing a video game, an MMORPG, or maybe Baldur's Gate, or just something they've been reading online. How do you tips for managing unrealistic expectations?
Use your words.
Use a stick.
Sticks are good too, but no, I think a simple conversation, especially if you know they're coming in from that expectation. You have to lay out that it is different. It is a very different experience. They'll have some overlap, but No, just make sure they understand that the other players at your table aren't professional actors. They're not going to be able to banter like the professional actors do. The games aren't scripted. You're not going to be handed a script. You will have more freedom. Things like that, just like outline how things are done at your table, so they at least, you've done your part into dissuading them or convincing them. Some people are thick in the head. They're going to see what they want to see until something slaps them in the face. But communicate.
Yeah, as RPG Grandma says there, talk to your players real words. Anything to add to that from anybody?
Oh,
No, I mean, like that is everything comes in there and find out. The other part is you should be vetting your players before they come. It's, if you're looking
Correct.
over and they have this grand, high, lofty aspect, like this game's probably not for you, or the way I'm going to run the game is not for you, probably, and they may be
Not
feel
for you,
disappointed.
Jen.
What's that?
Sorry, it's that IT crowd thing. It's not for you, Jen.
Yeah,
not for you.
it's that's a good way of bringing expectations down. It's like, well, it's this may not be for you. We'll try our best, but I think that we aren't going to be able to do it. It's like, oh, okay, that's fine, but like I said, unless it's someone that you've never met before, a lot of times, like, I'm just looking for an excuse to hang out with friends face to face. And in the case of nerd, and to stuff my face. So,
anything to add, Oscar, Bear?
Critical Role is a ban on our fucking hobby. Matt Mercer is not a great GM, despite what people think he is, and that's not a fucking game. They have a writer. They literally have writers on credit for Critical Role. That should tell you exactly that it's not a game. And if your players come in expecting you to run Critical Role or the Matt Mercer effect or whatever, make them watch some Matt Colville videos. See what a good GM can do that isn't scripted. Go watch his Chain of Acheron series or something like that. Go watch some other live plays other than the pro voice actors. Because you know what? I'm a pro voice actor. Sean's a pro actor. And we can't even do that level of shit because we don't have a production staff behind us when we sit down to do a game. It's a different beast. Very different beast.
We're back to the upfront, honest session zero, as they call it nowadays. We used to just call it a quick chat before the game. That's all session zero really is a quick chat before the game, and we always did it. We always had them when we were younger. We always talked about what games we wanted to play, make characters together, that sort of thing. But yes, have that quick chat before the game. Be open.
No, just again using my real life group. I mean, that was a bunch of people I met via Reddit. Like that entire group was just random strangers that had answered to a post I made on Reddit, and I just went like, I'm new here, but I need my fix. Arranged it with them, and when we met up, I made it quite clear. It's like I run my games in this way. If your inspirations are this, great. Critical Role, awesome. They've brought you into the hobby. I don't live up to their standards. I've got my own standards. Here's what they are. And let's try and see if your interest from here sort of bridges you over to here, and I will see, what we can do from there. Again, like it for me, it's also important that you as a DM, if you know what you like, if you know how your style is, and if you could then convey that over to especially new players, because explaining your style to someone who already plays role-playing games, that's probably going to be easier. Someone who hasn't done this before, or who is new to this hobby, you've got to find out other ways of also communicating with that, so that you can bridge that that gap that you will probably find as well.
Yeah. And Nerdy, you're right. It takes skill, clearly, and talent, but it's choreographed.
Yes. They are talented voice actors. They are trained voice actors.
Trained they're professional. Everyone's trained.
They're paid to do it. They're clearly good at what they do because they can earn money doing it.
And notice the one guy who showed up to play a game and was acting like a player got run out of the group after the first campaign. Right?
It was like 26 sessions in, just before they made it big.
Yeah, they ran him out of the group because he was more like, I'm here to play my character and I'm going to focus on my character succeeding. And they're like, well, no, this is about us as a collective doing a thing. And he's like, no. And they ran him out. And that was the end of that. Makes sense because when you're playing a game, you're going to have those players. You're going to have the ones who are like, well, this is about me doing what I want to do and I'm going to do it. And you just put up with them and you fucking handle them as a GM. That's what you do. You don't try and teach people how to behave socially. You're not here to teach people how to be human. You're here to play a game. And sad to say it, herd the cats. That's your job. Enjoy it. But if you're producing a product, that's a different story. Very different story.
Mm-hmm.
So it is professional wrestling to actual sports in comparison. It's an excellent observation. You're going to steal that in the future.
Yes,
a good one.
Yeah, I think Nerdy Ogre hit the nail on the head with that comment.
And
why
Heidi.
I brought it up? Yes. Daniel's popped into chat. Hello, Daniel. I've got one more thing on my list here now. We have flown through. I thought the approach thing would take a little bit longer, but I think we're generally in agreement, apart from people seem to think about wrapping and cotton wool a bit more than me, but hey ho. And I've got here.
You almost sound broken up about it, man.
Nah, I do, yeah. Yeah.
I like throwing them in the meat grinder, but that's just me.
I
A
don't
little
agree
bit, but still remember it's for fun. That's my
Oh no, absolutely. You don't make it malicious. When players understand that going in, that there will be deaths. Don't get too attached to your early characters. Then they can have fun with it.
Again, Cyberpunk. Here's your 8 characters for tonight. Let's see how many survive.
Yay. Same with as I'll mention DCC funnels. I think DCC funnel would be a good way to start somebody new. I think it would be quite good.
Yeah,
fun.
they're not going to learn about role playing, but they'll learn about ROLL playing for sure. Yeah.
They will do. Yeah. Anyway, this is one for Sean.
I'm going to sit players down and explain to them this is a social game where you work together. Do I know them as an inside example? Yes, they have to work together, but at the same time, I personally don't want my players doing that because they feel they're expected to. I want to see the characters conflict, not the players. They'll always make that distinction, the characters. And so, they shouldn't feel the need to shut up or go along with the crew, especially if their characters would not. Feel free to start debates and plan actions and whatnot. Just don't take it personally. But it's a social game, but socializing is interaction, and there will be conflict.
Hi, Grandma.
I'm going to bring one other thing.
Cheers, Grandma.
If for the new player, sometimes they get bored, nothing's going. I'll do this too. It's like they're all trying to argue about who's going to press the button and pull the lever. I'm like, screw this. I'm not going to wait 20 minutes. Just pull the lever and let's see what happens.
That happens all the time. The one guy playing the chaotic is the one who goes and does stuff while everybody debates it, which is great. Yeah. That's a fun dynamic to see play out.
I have a buddy of mine, Pat. He's publisher, Arcana Creations, mostly a Call of Cthulhu and a Castles and Crusades guy. But whenever he plays in my games, I refer to Pat always as the agent of chaos, because that's what Pat does. And that's where Pat has the most fun in the game, is being the agent of chaos, right? So he will never make a paladin. You know what I mean? He will never make an upright fighter. He'll always play something that has that ability to be a shit disturber and cause problems, because that's where he gets to have fun. And then the rest of the group actually gets into it and has fun trying to corral and keep his character in line and control him from getting them into trouble. It's almost like a wacky good time.
Well, I'm going to bring up one that I know John did when we had to face off against that little demon. Like, everyone was going around and like, we're afraid of this. Like, I'm going to just walk towards you. Let's see what happens. So you're like, don't touch the door. Let me see what happens. Like, I'm fine.
Don't touch that. That's evil.
Yes.
Oh, I had a player spend 15 minutes because he spotted unusual. So the players have Call of Cthulhu. Players have done a bunch of things, gotten into trouble with some shady people, and some shady people showed up at one of the players' house, fiddled a bit with their door, and then left. And the player then spent the next 10, 15 minutes going over so many different ways of trying to observe, what have they done to the door? Is it magical? Has runes been inscribed into it? Can I go over it? Can I go away, get a magnifying glass and come back? And all of these things. And what actually had happened is that some criminals had showed up, unlocked the door, gone in, rummaged through his place, gone out, closed the door, locked the door as to not make it look too suspicious, and left. And the player was so paranoid about like it could be anything. So it wasn't until at the very end he just went, I'm going to try and jiggle the door. It's like, okay, it's locked. Oh, they locked the door. It's just like all that time is wasted just trying to figure out like what did they do to the door? Well, they locked it behind them.
This is where
Cheers, Piglet.
this is where I think that the one veteran player that a lot of people get that paralysis of trying to figure out all the other stuff just says, I'm going to just do this. And if you have that veteran player do some of those things, it encourages the players to relax a little bit more and say, okay, if a bad thing happens, it happens. And and that's more fun.
Sometimes you got to Butch Cassidy and Sundance it. It's the stupid plan, and we're going for it. And if the stormtroopers go mow us down, they mow us down. If the dice are on our side, we'll make it to the shuttle bay. But otherwise, if the orcs hit us with arrows, John, or we make it to the wagon. There, it wasn't a sci-fi reference for you. You do it, and you have fun, and you remember those moments. You know what I mean? Because I guarantee you're going to talk about that moment in a much more positive light than, remember the night Omen Owl obsessed over that fucking book for 3 hours and we got nothing done? Remember that night? Yeah. So there's it's all about making memories. It's all about having fun and building memories.
No, absolutely.
I'm going to bring up thank you, Mac. Thank you, Mac. Do you find that as you get older, you try to insert more intrigue and story into the game and player interest wanes due to it?
No.
Not if there's intrigue, especially if the intrigue is good. If anything, they talk about it outside of the table, and then they're really into it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good night, Manfred.
See you, Manfred. Good night.
Manfred.
Single me out much?
I mean, I've spent the last 2 or 3 sessions inserting intrigue into our MERP game, and the players have absolutely lent into it. Which is what I wanted.
Into it? Lent? Is that a word? I thought that was a holiday or borrowing, sir. I didn't know that. Leaned into it is the proper term, isn't it?
No, it's like dreamt.
I'm so
Dreamt
fucking
and
with
dreamed.
you right now. I'm just
I know.
fucking with you.
Oh God.
Leant, the English past participle of lean.
No, we do not find that inserting intrigue and story into our games causes the players to wane their interest away from it.
Zach's triggered.
I am very triggered by that, yes. No, so I've not, because I have always been very oriented towards intrigue and story games. It's the thing that I focus on, and Aim's second edition for being more focused around that rather than dungeon delving. But that's what I find interesting. It's what I like. Now, some might come in with the interest and the focus around they want to go into the dungeon. They want to go as deep as they possibly can and then get back out with all the delicious loot. Cool. I'm not the DM for that.
I think
I know that.
I think with Matt coming in there is Dune. If you go and play a Dune game and the players don't want to do that, then it's always going to fail. But if you're adding a little bit, it's interesting, but don't force it on them. I think it's the problem.
I'll also add the little caveat that not everybody does intrigue well, and be prepared to be laughed at if it comes across as overly silly. But they'll still be.
But you know what? You can lean into it if it is silly and make it a trope.
Mm-hmm.
And then you will have leaned into it.
All I can think is we're gonna get 40 days of this. So.
All I can think is that Bear's vocabulary is getting lean.
I've leaned it down.
Sorry, I was being a little bit rude in chat.
Oh my goodness, it's come.
Iman commented that dreamt is the only word in English ends in MT.
I'm not even going to rattle my brain on that one.
So I do apologize if that offends anybody.
And nothing rhymes with orange.
No, that is true. Unless you make a character with a name that rhymes with orange, just to prove that wrong.
I will do that just to counterset psilocybus or whatever the hell your character's name is.
Psilocybin.
Psilocybin. There's nothing wrong with that character name, Psilocybin.
My character will be named Oranged.
And there's Albertus Jogson Brighthammer von Offenbach the Fourth, a paladin.
What?
That's his character's name, and you should
Sorry.
see when he types it on the token on Albert, he eats up the whole bloody
Yeah.
page.
We can't see the other tokens behind it. It's like, well, how
The
do I
label
know
is
that
so
that's
big.
What's the name of the character?
Albertus Jogson Brighthammer von Offenbach the Fourth.
What
Some-
happened?
I am Sarketh.
Who hurt you as a child?
I can say it's not me for once.
Nice callback.
Anyway. My next one is methods of approaching new players and introducing them to the game in terms of system, starter sets, approaches, all that sort of thing. Does it vary based on whether you're playing face to face, whether you're playing online, whether you're playing through a virtual tabletop or just through Discord? Do you have different approaches to how you might bring in a new player in terms of system and style, depending on how you run the game?
Yeah, my
Yes.
online game is ass, so
Yeah.
I don't bring in any new players in my online game. It's all friends. They're a little more forgiving.
I instead expose my weaknesses to the world on my YouTube channel of my online game. So what do I know?
I'm going to say this much is, yeah, of course I do, because I'm usually trying to suck them into some other system that's not 5e, because I don't really enjoy it. Whereas, online, the people are there to play that game regardless. So it's kind of the difference of I'm trying to seduce them to the dark side in one, and the other one is they're coming to it on their own. So
It's
That's it.
different. No, it is different. Real life versus online in how I go about bringing them in. The online one, because I deal a lot with different time zones. A lot of players in America, players in Europe, so forth. That causes not everyone to be available at the same time. So I then have to find the time to, if it's a new person, find time for them, have a conversation with them so that I can engage with them and learn how they are like, so that they can also engage me. It's been referred to before as interviews, but it's not in a formal sense. It's a way for us to basically engage. Are we going to be fitting together? Introduce them to the campaign, introduce them to what I do, give them the resources. And this is something I prefer to do over voice, because I find it easier
A personal session zero.
Exactly. And that's, again, this is me maybe just going a little bit more to the extreme side of, like, I will go out of the way to do that, for every single player, make sure that that's being done, especially if it's new people, because I want them to come back. I want them to feel engaged with it. And then more importantly, I also got to make sure that, since I do a lot of online games, make sure they understand how the tools work, make sure they know how Roll20 works. If they're using something like D&D Beyond, I've got a rudimentary understanding of it. If they want to bring it in, great. Here's how it roughly works. I don't pay the subscription, but I can roughly advise them how some of this will be working, and then how they can translate that over to Roll20, yada, yada, yada. This is what I would go out to do to help them online. In the real life group, it's a lot easier, because there's a lot, I'm sure we all are all aware, a lot of communication is done non-verbally. It's body language, tones, is the way that we present ourselves, hand movements, because I move my hands constantly like an Italian. These are things, but that's also how I can sort of convey information on. So for me, the real life group, it's easier for me to sort of engage people, read the body, and so forth. And I've had to learn, the hard way, how I can also engage and read people online, whether or not they're going to be fitting with me and not. And then that from there you sort of go. So there are huge differences between the two, at least in my perspective. But again, for me, I put in the extra mile to make sure that either I find the right players, or I make sure that the players feel welcomed in, so that when they join the group, they are caught up and they're able to sort of insert, and then from there say team effort. to make them feel welcomed and make them want to come back for the next session.
I agree. I mean, it is more work to bring somebody who is new into a game online, because you have to get through not just an unfamiliarity with the concept of role playing and the rules, but also with the technology you're going to be using, because almost all of us use some form of technology to run online. Well, that's the only way you can do. You have to use technology to run online. Yes, you can just have a voice app or something, but that is still technology, because there's an etiquette to get used to when running a game online, because you can't all talk over each other and have side conversations. There's another thing for people to get used to. So yes, it is more difficult, and there is more work involved. I also think a DM has to be more patient when running with new players online than they would face to face, because of those extra barriers.
There goes what I'm saying. I just want to slowly break the mood here and respond to All One's comment. He says, "Is it just me, or does Mac Thompson look like Cowboy Sean?" Well, you decide.
I think the answer there is yes. I know, to be honest, with Mac has a more impressive beard than you.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Cowboy Elfbait would be closer. If we can see Elfbait with a cowboy hat, I think that would be closer.
Sadly, this wonderful hat doesn't fully fit me. It's a size too small. It was my uncle's hat. I inherited it when he died.
Therefore, we're not allowed to make fun of it. Aw, thanks.
Well, you can totally make fun of it.
It's okay. I'll just stick to making fun of you, man.
This is the conservative leaning uncle who was once a police officer with the OPP, who was infuriated that I got his kids, my cousins, into D&D back in the 80s.
Nice.
He was livid.
And so he gave you a hat that's too small to
Well,
shrink your brain. No.
He only died a couple of years ago. But
General Nut, I think you're about 40 minutes behind on the stream.
Why? What did he say?
Oh yeah.
That's a while ago.
Yeah, Weird World War II is in there. I think he was a little behind too, because he was commenting on things that we talked about a while back.
Yes. Synchronization. And that is technology.
Fuck you, Dale. You can't make me wear pants.
So, hopefully, in the last 2 hours and 40 minutes, we've given our expert opinion. Is it expert opinion? Are we experts?
It's opinions. That's
No.
for sure.
It's opinions.
Given our
We've
insights.
given our insights on how we approach new players. I mean, I think it's fair to say that DMs do have a responsibility for growing our hobby, and we all want to make sure the players at our table enjoy the game, but we've all got different ideas of how to do that, and it's always a matter of, do our games mesh with those of the players at the table? And communication is key.
I'm going to bring the other part up, which is
Nutty is with us. Sorry, Nutty is with us.
but
Things are different online than in person.
So
yes.
So he comped up to the conversation. Is that what you're saying?
He comped up to the yes.
well, I'm going to say this much though, is you're talking about that as meshing, but also look, when we play with in the morning or whoever's running it, it's like, well, that's the game we're playing, whether we like it or and everyone has a different style, and some styles mesh, sometimes they don't, and in some cases, guess what? This style's better for this game, and that style's better for that game for the GM, and that's what I'll play with, in there. And just, I guess a lot of it is also from the players. Just be open-minded, sit back, enjoy it. It's going to be kind of a roller coaster. It might be a weird roller coaster, but it's yeah.
So Nutty, I think you're right there. Things are different online than in person. Yes, the idea of rolling random dice behind a a DM screen. The idea of even having a DM screen playing online.
Just have a little dice tower that'll rattle, and then once in a while the players will hear that rattle and go, "What the fuck? What's he rolling?"
And in real life, you can stand up from your seat, continue your monologue as you walk around the players, slowly encircling them and making them feel trapped. Surrounded.
Are you DMing?
Well, Saxix likes to stalk and hunt his players, so that apparently is working out for him.
Right.
Make them feel trapped. Wow.
Well,
Have
see,
them
he
all
hasn't-
hunched over, hide their character sheets, feel afraid. Yes.
see, Saxius doesn't just play a game; he also does the escape room as part of it. So,
Bear,
Now.
Bear,
I hope you enjoyed those drinks. There's been a poison put in them. You must roll 2 20s in a row and you will get the antidote.
Do you DM your games with a jigsaw mask on? You know?
Want to
Ben.
play a game? Yes.
do you see now why myself, Gingerbeard, and General Nut consider it to be a badge of honor to have tormented Saxius to within an inch of crying in a game?
No. No, I don't see why that's a badge of honor. What's wrong with you people?
I don't even know where to begin.
Who hurt you? Who fucking hurt you?
No.
no. Was it crying from laughter or was it crying?
Oh, yes, I think
Oh,
it was
that's
private.
different then. Okay.
Yes.
No, like they did
Yeah,
things
he's
where I
Danish. They
was.
don't cry. They don't have tears. The Danes.
It was the absurdity. I think I was laughing so hard I ended up having tears. Honestly, but I've also been left speechless 3 or 4 times in that campaign. Anyway, not important. Move on.
Well,
Oh,
first of all,
very
those
important,
weren't
very
tears.
important.
That was murder lubricant. But that's okay.
But he's,
Anyway.
he's a Danish Viking. Those aren't tears. That's just salt spray.
Yeah, gotta stay moisturized.
That's right.
I bring the seeds in my face.
I just kept
So-
thinking of that Dr.
Kravka, we kill at dawn.
Moisturize me. Moisturize.
And- So in this stream, we have stayed wonderfully on topic, haven't we, Saxius?
You've done decently.
We've done decently, haven't we? So
Yeah,
now
that's
we've got
a seal of approval.
14 minutes of end of stream rambling. So any
I
questions in
like
chat?
eggs.
Oh, God, no! It begins.
So
He
end
said
of,
Sax
end
has
of
been on
stream
one of my
ram-
streams once. I don't think he's ever coming back because it was just too random.
No, I do want to come back though. That's the thing. I had so much fun on that stream. I do want to contribute.
Well,
if I'm
that's
allowed
nice.
to, that is.
You, of course, you're allowed to. Everyone here is more than welcome. Well, except for Omanal. Just stay away, please. No, everyone's welcome. Come on. You know what I do. You know how I do.
Omanal will float down with his Inspector Gadget seal.
I'll get you next time, Omanal.
Yeah, that's right.
But no, yes, I think
for Amon, it was a cartoon from the 1980s. Okay.
Gadget.
Funnily enough, I do know it, but that's because they bothered to translate it into Danish.
He was
why
called
it-
Viking Kill Go.
They straight up couldn't translate, so they just went like 1 for 1. So Inspector Gadget just exactly the same in English because they didn't know how to better put it. Mind you,
Was Inspector Gadget a French one? Because I saw it in French as
No,
well.
it's English.
No,
Okay.
It's North American. Yeah.
all
Okay.
ones. In the 80s, I was a little bit of a goth, and I still lean towards black.
My
Oh, for
favorite
God's
color is green. No, blue. No. Ah!
thank you. Thank you.
Somebody had to do it.
You know, it's
Yeah,
just like-
TNT.
Correct, Matt
Uh,
Thompson. Correct.
It's
Purple and green for me.
it's scarlet blue.
red and green.
How
Actually,
festive.
it'd probably be scarlet and royal blue.
Okay, now you're just being
Saxius' favorite
Scarlet
color is the blood.
royal
Is the
blue.
blood of his enemies.
Like I said, red and green. I'll do like my greenery.
Yes, he likes seeing the blood
Goblins.
sprayed across the pines.
Exactly.
Hey,
See, that's if I could show you my
my
Christmas tree, it would just be gold and a tree.
Gore and tree. For Krampus.
Ah. Dead quiet.
So I'm just agreeing with Mac here. I'm agreeing with Mac. Saw Nine Inch Nails play twice. Never saw Ministry play. Would love to have seen them play. Anyway,
Nice.
well, we're in the rambling bit, so just ramble, chaps, ramble. I'm spent.
I'm a rambling man, rambling.
I'm completely spent.
One day this stream is going to just break out into song. We all have to coordinate.
Oh no.
Sean, Drinking Quest.
Oh.
Yes. I do want to set it up. All the Drinking Quest files are on my other computer, which is not set up. So I'll hook that up and transfer the files, and then I'll let you know as soon as I've got the first Drinking Quest still loaded into the Roll20 page. I was going to upload the Drinking Quest 2 and 3 and whatnot.
We can play the first one again if you want.
We could, but let's put the new one in. That way it's brand new. But yeah, well, let's definitely set that up. I'll make a point of uploading the images.
The hell is Drinking Quest?
It is it's basically a card game, very loosely based on D&D. The idea is everybody's got their character. You turn over the card, and you either have a challenge or a monster to beat. And if your character dies, you got to chug your drink.
And people were sending super chats to make us down drinks and things like that.
Yeah, so we back in March we did Drinking Quest 1 for Geek's 2-year anniversary, and we talked about doing the others. There's multiple sets. I know the guy who created the game. I met him a number of years ago, and I actually remember when I was at Fan Expo, I told you about. That's the booth I was working. Fan Expo was the Drinking Quest booth. So yeah, we talked about doing another one.
It got a little messy towards the end. I mean, I was playing with beer, and Squirrel Hermit was playing with whatever the hell he could get his hands on.
Yeah,
that's dangerous.
I had the whiskey. Oh,
whiskey.
I overdid it with the whiskey. I was loopy all night. Holy crap!
And Saxis, what did you have?
I had rum.
Oh,
I was sitting with rum and Coke for the majority of it.
I can't ever drink gin ever again because when I was like 14, I got myself sick enough to throw up from gin, and it came up my nose. And ever since then, the smell of gin just makes me go, no, I'm good, thanks.
Sean,
you go drink your pine tree in a bottle. Leave me alone. You know,
Sean. It looks like you've got 2 or 3 takers for another game of Drinking Quest on your channel.
I see that.
Point.
I just saw
all ones, and because I think we've got. I think Gingerbeard wanted to play in this one, didn't he? This next one,
right? He was giving up drinking for Lent when we played the last time. That was his excuse.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I figure I'll run it this time like we planned properly, rather than play the DM, and then we'll have 4 actual players. That way, I can't get accused of cheating when I win.
Are you going to cut it a little bit? You know, right? Because I remember the next day you were like, "Whoa!"
Well, if I'm running it, I won't necessarily be drinking. I'll have a drink on hand, but it's the players who will be doing all the drinking. But yeah, I wouldn't overdo it even if I was playing.
Punch up DK's chat. Put up DK's chat for a second, please.
Sorry, what are we looking at? Oh,
guess what you have? Erectile dysfunction.
Well, I would imagine.
Sorry.
If he's been drinking JD and Coke while playing 2 full sessions of OSE, that might be the case. For 8 hours on a Saturday.
Provides the will, but takes away the ability, as Shakespeare said. Indeed.
Sorry, who was the other person who said they wanted in?
All ones mentioned it, and GM Cody mentioned it as well.
Oh, Cody, okay. Great.
So we have more people.
We have more takers this time. That's good. There are more characters as the sets progress. There are more characters too, which is fun because you get some really whacked out ones. There's the first Drinking Quest. There were pretty much the archetypes. You had the barbarian, you had the warrior, you had the witch, and then you had the thief. But then you get later on, you get like sexy Cthulhu. You get Yeti Vetter, who's a Yeti, right?
Jeremy smoking.
So yeah, so there's a fun variety of characters to choose from as the sets progress.
No, all ones. You can't play the sober cleric.
You can play the
It's not
sober
allowed.
cleric who starts sober, but very quickly loses their sobriety.
No, we didn't drink massive amounts, but we had enough to get us a.
We were
Smart
fine.
family.
I overdid it. I mean, mainly towards the end, but it was so funny because
I can't remember how well it went, but I do remember because I had to go and collect groceries the following day. I had arranged for that to be brought to my house just so that I could avoid having to drive to Tesco hungover.
See, I want to live in England just so I can go to a Tesco, man, because I keep hearing this term all the time. Tesco. I'm like, I want to go to a Tesco and find out it's nowhere near interesting.
It is not that fancy. No, like I'm more interested in going to I'd be more interested in going to a Walmart or something like Costco or something like that. Tesco.
Oh no, they're so pedestrian. Ew.
Fire away, Iman.
That's Tesco.
Iman, give us your idea. Iman, give us your idea. Tesco's, yes, Tesco's.
No, like it's just saying that Tesco's aren't just pedestrian. It's not a fanciful place to go to.
It's just a grocery store.
It's just different.
It is just a grocery store. Yeah.
It's just different though. That's my point. Like it'd be nice to see the house brands and the weird British stuff that we don't get here. And then the stuff that's like almost like our stuff, but has a different name. Like we call it Lay's, you call it McLaren's or whatever, things like that. It's just like, that's interesting to me.
Our luxury supermarkets are Waitrose and Marks and Spencer's. That's where the posh people go.
Oh.
We've got Asda.
You're not going to find me back in Marks and Spencer ever again. Good heavens!
Not even with the adverts, with that really sultry woman talking about. Do you remember the adverts from a few years ago from Marks and Spencer's? How she would describe. You don't remember them?
No.
How she described sumptuous, sticky, smooth, warm chocolate sauce poured out. Oh.
No.
Oh.
Do you need to be go offline there, John?
I think that is just him having specific dreams.
Yeah, that got a little racy, buddy. I was thinking you could take a sip of a drink as a forfeit every time you make a choice, and you want to go back to the previous page.
No, Iman, no. That would just end up with people torturing me on a Friday night.
I mean, I certainly would be encouraging them.
John would be drinking 2% beer just to make sure he doesn't know.
Just 0% beer. Like, how would they know?
Oh, exactly. John can pretend to be drunk,
I think if you're pub crawling in Glasgow, your main worry is
Glaswegians.
Glaswegians, yes, yeah. The after a gallon of beer, the effects of the natives.
Oh, it's quite over What do you ask? Where you're from?
My ancestors are from 50 miles south of Glasgow, about 300 years.
I still think the greatest thing Scotland ever did was in the 1800s decide engineering was awesome and just go all in on engineering. Here in Montreal, we have the McGill University, and like every university, every building is like, McConnell Engineering, McLagan this, and McCloker that. And it's like, Jesus, what is with all these Scots and tools? What the fuck were you thinking, England? Don't let them build shit.
Yeah, in like 100 years, they went from the most backwards nation there to the most advanced.
So like some of the premier engineers on planet Earth. It's insanity.
I might be wrong on this, but off the top of my head, I believe that during one of the sieges of Constantinople, one of the leading engineers there was just this very ingenious Scotsman that when the Turks would be tunneling under the walls, he would just be placing just a bunch of buckets around. So the moment he saw movement in the water, he'd be like, "There they are! Quick, dig them up! Throw fire down there! Gotcha!"
Yeah. When you have very little, you have to get really creative. Hence Scotland. There you go.
Yeah.
I think the thing is Scotland is they bang on about Bannockburn and battles that, but they
thing about England is they bang on about the Commonwealth and the Empire and I'm sorry, what?
But
the thing about Brian is he keeps banging on about England.
The
The
thing
Scots,
that Brian is he tells us he went to England one time.
the Scots forget Culloden and forget Flodden Field.
Everyone forgot Culloden and Fronto. We know what the fuck you're talking about. Get better press representation. Jesus Christ.
Flodden Field was the demonstration that the bill was a much more versatile polearm than the Scottish pike.
Somehow that wasn't in my history. I learned all about Stirling Bridge, though, for some reason.
Yeah, but that was 200 years beforehand. Flodden Field was revenge.
That's right. I apologize. It is true. England does live on past glory always.
Absolutely,
always.
Yeah, of course we do. That is the way we are, and we're coming up towards. We are coming up towards Pumpkin Hour. We are coming up towards. UK history is boring. All ones, wash your mouth out with soap. We have the greatest history on the planet.
Try reading Canadian history all ones. You'll learn the true definition of boring.
Sisters in the Wilderness.
It's what a little pamphlet, isn't it? You know, you just flip through and like, okay, we're done.
Oh no, it's page after page of fur trade.
And many other things.
Wow. Yeah. Some horrible shit we did over here, but that's beside the point.
I mean, I'd recommend Scandinavian history for everyone. Just the absolute love 3 countries can have for one another. Oh, grief.
Yeah.
Fun times.
Absolutely. Right. Shill your channels, chaps.
Mage's Musings, Puppet Wizard. Come watch my show. That's all I got for you tonight.
Bear the Gen X GM, please stop subscribing to me. I keep getting more of you, and I don't know why you hang around. I'm going to have to just start doing nude dances, I think, to get rid of you guys.
Sean, when's your next video coming out?
I don't know. I've got them written up. I'd hoped to have them out by the end of November, and I just sort of ran out of energy with everything going on. And it's like, you know what? I'm not going to stress it. So hopefully by the end of the year, I'm not going to make promises, but hopefully. But they're written up. I need to record them. I think the part I'm struggling with is like I've written up the recap parts. I've not written up my thoughts on Claricon, and that's what I want to articulate well before I put them out. But
Bear, you've given up doing video. Bear, you've given up doing videos. You just do live streams now, don't you?
I just haven't had time to do videos since I moved, so that's the live streams feed the beast. Tonight we're going to be doing the 4-Color Cafe in about an hour, and we're doing Seasons Gamings. We're discussing holiday gifts for players and GMs.
Now, Bear, do you want to show your second channel?
Oh, and Friday night. So I've got a new channel called Bear's Cave. It's Bear's Cave -1980X, and it's supernatural, UFOs, ghosts, things like that. And Friday night we'll be doing our first live stream, which is going to be a Friday Fright Night, where I'm going to grab some random ghost collection video off of YouTube and react to it live and call bullshit when I see bullshit.
Oh, cool. What time's that going to be?
Probably 8 o'clock, I think, 7 o'clock. I haven't decided. I put it up. It's flexible right now, but go ahead and subscribe to it.
Straight after I have subscribed to your channel. Straight after I finish my reading one.
There we go. Nice.
There you go.
There you go. Subscribe to
it boils down to this. I watch all of these stupid ghost videos, and some of them are just absolute shit. Like the ones from the South America are always like, Manuel has a ghost in his house, and it's some girl. It's like, that's not a ghost. It's his sister wearing a white dress with her hair wet. Like, fuck off. Try harder. Whereas the Americans, you guys have mastered After Effects for your ghosts, and the UK is boring as shit because they're always standing around some fucking castle with night vision on going, did you feel that? I heard that. Did you feel that? Oh, yeah, I felt that. Yeah. It's like, Jesus Christ, give me something to look at, you know? But when you see one, and it makes your hair stand up, and you go, oh, shit, I don't know how they faked that, but that was good, you know?
It could be interesting. I'm not working this weekend, so I hopefully be able to stay up for that. Sean, so we're going to have to wait till the end of the year to find out how you killed General Nutt's characters.
Ooh.
Not necessarily that long, but maybe. I don't know. I'm making no promises at this point. I don't want to commit to something I can't deliver on.
It's all I'm waiting for. I want to find out how General Nutt was hung, drawn, and quartered, or whatever you did to him.
I didn't draw and quarter him. I would never be so cool.
No. You'd hang him, though.
Nope, I wouldn't do that.
And of
You'll
course,
find out.
Both Omanal and Saxius don't have channels. We already knew that Omanal was a channel whore, getting in on everybody else's channels, but it seems that Saxius is becoming one as well now, because you've whored yourself out to Bear's channel, haven't you, in recent times?
Yes.
One time, it wasn't whoring; it was a date,
Well, there we go.
and he was a gentleman.
Good. Glad to hear it, Joey. Glad to hear it.
That's the first compliment I'll take. Yes. That's,
Right, and I'm going to finish up by saying, you know me, I'm the old geek. If you haven't already subscribed to my channel and you're here through Major's Musings channel, then by all means pop over, and I don't mind you clicking subscribe. And if you haven't subscribed to either Major's Musings or Bear the Gen X GM, pop over there, give them a subscribe. No matter how much Bear whinges and moans, he does appreciate people popping by, and you do. You do. and everybody in chat, you've been magnificent tonight, both my chat and Sean's chat. We can see everybody's chat all together. You've been really generous. Thank you to everybody. I know All Ones has been feeding his earnings this week into Major's bank account, and there were various people who were subscribing to me and whatever. Thank you all of you. And yeah, Dungeon Minister, you pop in just when everyone is popping out because your clocks are wrong where you are. So if you want to listen to my nonsense again, I'm going to be reading, hopefully be finishing City of Thieves, the fighting fantasy book, on Friday. Depends on whether the chat listen to Iman or not, because Iman seems to know the score when it comes to the way through the books. And yeah, it's been good. It's been a good one tonight. We stayed on topic.
I thought City of Thieves was the nickname of the city of London.
Probably.
I thought it was Rome.
No. It's probably the home of international banking. My God, read a book.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's every major city. To be honest.
That's right, Omanel. Get out.
Is in Rome.
But yeah, cheers, chat. You've been really good tonight. Hope you've enjoyed it, and good night for another week. We hit 47 people.
Wow.
With a car or a baseball bat?
Is that a record for you, John?
Sean would have had a portion of those, but I think it's a combined record. So brilliant. Thank you all. Good night.